Zui Yanfei and Tang Ruowei followed the villagers' guidance to enter the mountain from the same road as the demon. Zui Yanfei and Tang Ruowei followed the villagers' guidance to enter the mountain from the same road as the demon. Not long after walking along the mountain road, Zui Yanfei keenly discovered some trails. According to Zui Yanfei's tracking, the footprints of those demons disappeared in the wood on the side of the mountain road, so Zui Yanfei and Tang Ruowei also had to give up the flat mountain road, split the thorns on both sides of the road, and chase down the trail left by the demons. The two followed the trail of the fox demon and gradually went into the forested area where no one had entered. Zui Yanfei led the way agilely in front and from time to time helped Ruowei Tang, who also had to walk in a skirt, to give Tang Ruowei knowledge of the hunters about how to survive in the mountains. For example, what kind of fruit was edible, what kind of grass could heal and detoxify, what kind of leaves could easily ignite, etc. After a while, Zui Yanfei's image in Tang Ruowei's eyes gradually changed from a majestic female general into a primitive woman in the jungle. Her silver spear actually gave the girl the illusion of, "Is that a stone spear?" However, Zui Yanfei's tracking ability was indeed good. She took Tang Ruowei to run around in Dingjiang Mountain, still biting the trail of those demons firmly. It's just that the trail of these monsters seems to be drifting out of the mountain. "They are in circles," Zui Yanfei said. "Cunning little foxes." Except for Zui Yanfei, Tang Ruowei estimated that the cultivators who hunted them should not have tracked the skills of foxes by footsteps. These demons' plan must be using Dingjiang Mountain to confuse cultivators who were hunting them, and then escape. However, this blinding method was useless to Zui Yanfei. She followed the traces of the foxes all the way to the place where the foxes really hide. "It's here?" Tang Ruowei blinked, looking at the huge stone statue about 50 meters high. "Those foxes are under the stone statue of the previous emperor?" Zui Yanfei turned around the emperor's stone statue, then pointed to a position behind the stone platform under his feet and said, "Here, foxes generally live in tree holes or earth caves. This hole must have been made by them." "Oh, that's it, it turns out they are hiding here." "Yeah, huh?" Zui Yanfei responded subconsciously before noticed that the sound was different. She looked up and found that Bai Qiuran was standing behind her and Tang Ruowei, touching his chin and looking curiously at the hole on the ground. "Brother Bai? How did you come here?" Zui Yanfei surprised. She and Tang Ruowei depended on Tang Ruowei's unique earth escape technique to come from the capital to Dingjiang Mountain in such a fast time. Brother Bai was just a chi refining stage cultivator. How did he do that? Tang Ruowei began to think hard about how to fool Zui Yanfei. "Oh, when senior sister left before, she left me a message with the secret method of Qingming sword sect." Bai Qiuran told a lie smoothly. "As a result, after you two left, I happened to meet a Golden Course senior brother who just happens to pass by the Ding Kingdom. I asked him to bring me over. Senior sister, you remember Brother Ju Yun, right? It turned out that Brother Ju Yun brought you over, then that's okay." Tang Ruowei immediately followed Bai Qiuran. "The message is indeed my preparation. Brother Ju Yun is a high master, he indeed can bring Brother Bai here before us." "Is that so?" Zui Yanfei suppressed her doubts. "Then it's your sect's internal affairs, I don't ask any more. But Brother Bai, you must follow up with us. There is a group of cultivators nearby who are also hunting with these monsters. They are bad people." "Understood." Bai Qiuran smiled and replied, "Thank you, Sisters Wu, for your concern. Okay, now follow us." Zui Yanfei looked at the cave and said to Tang Ruowei, "Ruowei, leave it to me." Tang Ruowei reached out and grabbed Zui Yanfei's shoulder. After thinking about it, she extended another hand and grabbed Bai Qiuran. Then she took a deep breath, activated the earth escape technique, and the three sunk into the ground. Down the track of the underground cave, Tang Ruowei took Bai Qiuran and Zui Yanfei into a spacious tunnel. Down the track of the underground cave, Tang Ruowei took Bai Qiuran and Zui Yanfei into a spacious tunnel. It seemed that by this time, the demons have recovered their human form, and instead used a spell to dig a cave out for hiding. "Be careful." Zui Yanfei pulled out her two short spears but did not put them together. "A demon capable of transforming is at least equivalent to a cultivator of our level. Not mention that there is no guarantee that they will have no special abilities. Junior brother Bai, you hide between me and Ruowei. No problem, Sister Zwa. Bai Qiuran shamelessly ran to the position between two young girls and accepted their protection without any problem. Tang Ruowei was behind Bai Qiuran, looking at him with a complex face. Taking advantage of Zui Yanfei's inattention, she approached Bai Qiuran and asked in a low voice, Master, what are you doing here? I have said this is your own experience this time, except when you encounter a situation that the cultivators in the Foundation establishment stage can't handle it anyway, I won't act. Bai Qiuran replied with his voice transfer skill. I came to help you eliminate the factors that you can't handle. Rest assured, just follow your idea, I will not let those guys affect your experience. Okay. Tang Ruowei whispered. Following Zui Yanfei, the three of them went along the tunnel. After a few minutes, a white shadow suddenly flashed in front of them. Oh! Zui Yanfei warned a short spear sideways and said at the same time, Who are you? No one answered her words in the dark, but the whizzing voice was getting faster and faster in the dark space around. Tang Ruowei was also vigilant. Only Bai Qiuran was still there, showed a confusing expression like he didn't know what to do. Suddenly, with her affinity for the surrounding land, Tang Ruowei sensed that some object was approaching behind her. She turned sideways in advance and dodged the sneak attack. A white foxtail came from the darkness, wiped her face, and hit hard on Bai Qiuran's back. With a loud mumble, Tang Ruowei saw Bai Qiuran froze for a while, then he covered his back and fell on the ground deliberately in a very contrived posture. Ah! The white-haired young man rolled around shamelessly on the ground. I'm dying! Brother Bai! Zui Yanfei immediately squatted down with concern, pulling Bai Qiuran's arm. Are you okay? Tang Ruowei also heard a cry from the darkness. Why is this man so weak? She stared blankly at her master who was leaning shamelessly on Zui Yanfei and said lightly, Sister Yanfei, don't worry, he has our master's magic tool on him, it'll protect him from death. Then she turned around again and said to the one in the dark, Please let go of the hostility. We are not in the same group as those who chase you. You see, our fighting power is so weak. We just want to ask about the details of the Crown Prince's death. Can you come out and talk to us? Perhaps it was Bai Qiuran's pain groan that was lowering the guard. There was a sound of walking in the darkness. Then a black-haired woman in a white dress with a fluffy decoration came out of the darkness, followed by several other girls who wore different colors. These girls were born beautiful, and there were swaying foxtails of varying amounts and colors behind them. The white dress girl came to Tang Ruowei and others, and the remaining fox surrounded them in the middle, and then said to them. The white dress girl came to Tang Ruowei and others, and the remaining fox surrounded them in the middle, and then said to them, Human, what do you want to talk about? The Crown Prince of the Ding Kingdom, do you have any impression? Tang Ruowei said to her. On the night you performed in the Imperial City, some of you were called to his ship. Can you tell us what happened later? Why should we tell you? The white fox girl wryly said. We are not afraid to tell you the truth. We were commissioned by the emperor of the country to investigate this matter. Zui Yanfei put Bai Qiuran on the ground and got up. Now there is a group of cultivators outside. It should be a sect that wants to arrest you and take your inner core to make pills. If you are innocent in this matter, then we can help each other. You help us catch the real murderer, we help you escape their pursuit. This, the white fox girl hesitated for a moment, and a woman with a fiery red foxtail behind her whispered, Your Royal Highness, the human race is not credible. Oh hey! Bai Qiuran suddenly screamed, interrupting the red fox's words, and he seemed to whisper in pain while moaning. My shoulder is broken, and the magic tool given to me by Master is also broken. The hesitation expression flashed on the face of the white fox girl, and then she said, Okay, let me tell you. Your Highness! All right. The white fox girl stopped her men. It's not a big deal anyway. She coughed for a while, and then talked to Tang Ruowei about the whole thing. This thing started when I came to Tsung Province. After coming here, we don't have any human money, so I thought about finding a way to earn some, So I took my maids and started idle activities. What is idle? Tang Ruowei asked Zui Yanfei. This is a foreign language, from my hometown farther away, on a small island overseas, meaning a person who is adored and being sought after. The White Fox Girl explained. Aren't you a demon equivalent to a Foundation establishment stage cultivator? Tang Ruowei asked. Why are you doing this kind of activity? If you need money, I can think of many better things that you can do. Cough, this is personal hobby. The White Fox waved. In short, the more our group appears on stage, the more famous we become. One day I received an invitation from a high-rank official. He said that His Highness wanted to meet me, and I followed him. Why did you go? Zui Yanfei wondered. He said he has prepared good wines and delicious dishes. The White Fox is embarrassed. I'm thinking that it's free food, not to eat is also a waste. Tang Ruowei and Zui Yanfei glanced at each other, speechless. In short, after going to the ship, the prince let the others get off the boat, and then tried to hug me. There was a trace of disgust on the face of the White Fox Girl. He maniacally whispered, wife, honey, and the like. At the time I thought you crazy. Who is your wife? I just bit his shoulder and jumped the window and fled along the canal. I didn't even have time to eat anything. Later, when I was out of the city, a group of human cultivators hunted us down, and we fled here all the way. In other words, you just bit the prince and didn't kill him? Zui Yanfei asked. Absolutely not. The White Fox Girl shook her head and said, How could someone die because of a bite on the shoulder? My teeth aren't toxic. I guess it was the human race who chased us. When I jumped out of the window, I think I saw someone floating near the ship. Zui Yanfei looked down and looked at Tang Ruowei from time to time. Neither of them believed her because they just heard one side of the story, but what the White Fox said did indeed match the situation they verified. But at this moment, a sudden tremor came from the ground. There was mud brushing down from the top, and outside of the cave, someone shouted loudly, Come out, we have found you, and hiding is useless. It seems that they found us. Zui Yanfei closed her eyes and used a secret detection method of the Heavenly Army. There are 4 people outside, 2 in the middle of the Foundation establishment stage, 1 in the peak of the Foundation establishment stage, and 1 is quasi-Golden Core. It seems that the Golden Core stage cultivators have not yet arrived. What should we do now? The White Fox Girl suddenly panicked. We will honor our promise. Zui Yanfei glanced at the foxes and said lightly, Ruowei, you and I went out to lead them away. With your technique, escape from them was not a problem. Brother Bai, you stay here with these foxes. As soon as we lead those bad guys away, you run together with them. Can't we hide in the hole and not go out? The White Fox Girl asked. Bai Qiuran squinted at her and said quietly, I remember that when I was a kid, I didn't have any entertainment. My favorite game was to find an ant cave in the mountains, and then pee inside, or light a fire at the entrance of the cave, and fan smoke to smoke the ants, 2 heroines. Baihu immediately bowed to Zui Yanfei and Tang Ruowei. Please save us. Then masked, junior brother, see you later. Tang Ruowei glanced at Bai Qiuran and said, Farewell. Bai Qiuran waved his hand with a smile, watching Tang Ruowei and Zui Yanfei disappear into the earth. Then the smile on his face converged and became a lazy face. Go. He waved at the foxes. You go inside to hide. What are you doing? Several foxes looked weirdly at this refining stage cultivator who suddenly began to talk big. The White Fox Girl pointed to his head and asked, Were you hit in your head? Ha! Bai Qiuran smiled. Your father didn't dare to say this in front of me. You are braver than him. The White Fox Girl froze for a moment. Bai Qiuran raised his finger, released a sword beam, and said, You came from the demon world. Didn't your dad tell you to be careful of Qingming's sword sex refining stage cultivators? Behind the stone statue of the previous emperor, 4 cultivators were standing here, surrounding the earth cave at the foot of the stone statue. Behind the stone statue of the previous emperor, 4 cultivators were standing here, surrounding the earth cave at the foot of the stone statue. They were disciples of moon-worshipping sect who came to capture the transformed demons for the elders in the sect. Brother Pei-Ching, are you sure this is the right place? The fire cultivator who had attacked Tang Ruowei and Zui Yanfei on the canal was also here and asked a man beside him. The man being questioned held a trigram-shaped compass, and the pointer on the compass was moving in the direction of the stone statue. The man looked down at the compass in his hand and replied, "According to the tracking results of the magic tool given to us by the master, the demons disappeared here. Then let me use a spell to blow up everything." Another disciple pinched a hand pose, and there was a faint red glow at his fingertips. "Don't mess up." Pei-Ching raised his hand to stop. "This is the stone statue of the first emperor of the Ding Kingdom. It is the symbol of the royal family. Our sect has not yet had enough strength to ignore the royal family of the Ding Kingdom. Brother Pei-Ching, there is movement underground." At this time, another guy suddenly said, "Be careful, there is something to get out." The other three people were shocked and dispersed, and the next moment, the ground burst, and the figures of Tang Ruowei and Zui Yanfei appeared in place. Seeing that no one was making a move, Tang Ruowei pouted very quietly, while Zui Yanfei faced the other four cultivators, saying, "I am Zui Yanfei, a first-class soldier of the Heavenly Army. This is Tang Ruowei, a disciple of Qingming's sword sect. What are you from? Heavenly Army? Qingming's sword sect?" Hearing these two names, the cultivators around were shocked. As the top 5 sects of the Righteous Alliance, the names of these two sects were famous within the 9 provinces. Except for loose cultivators who accidentally entered the road of cultivation, no one didn't know these names. "Everyone, we are here just to investigate the case of the Crown Prince of the Ding Kingdom." Zui Yanfei waved. "Then it's good." Pei-Ching laughed and said, "We also came for this case. We found that the demon who killed the prince was hidden under this stone statue. Miss Zui, you two might as well join us in slaying these demons. After our inquiry, the demon inside did not seem to be the murderer who killed the prince." Zui Yanfei glanced at Pei Yuan lightly. "On the other hand, one of you looks very similar to the attackers we met on the canal that day." "Oh, the world is so big, there are always a few people with similar shapes." Pei-Ching took a step forward while talking. "But Miss Zhou, you shouldn't believe the demon's words. Let's first capture these monsters back to the Ding Kingdom, and then decide." "Ha!" Zui Yanfei glanced at Pei-Ching, and suddenly gave up and sighed. "It seems that you don't understand the meaning of these ceremonious words. I don't like it too, so I will say straightly, there is no problem with the demons here, and their identity is not simple. You should retreat." "Oh?" Pei-Ching looked at Zui Yanfei and Tang Ruowei. "So you two girls want to defend those demons? What about you? Do you believe that, in the name of Qingming's sword sect and Heavenly Army, we can't protect several innocent demons?" Zui Yanfei asked coldly. Pei-Ching hesitated a little but then sneered. "You two girls are kind-hearted, but you have too few experiences. It is inevitable that you are tricked by the demon. Rest assured, we will not hurt you. At most, we capture the two and let the elder of your sect come and bring you back." He waved his hand, and the other 3 cultivators gathered around, staring at Zui Yanfei and Tang Ruowei. "Seriously, don't you really think about it?" Tang Ruowei gave a long sigh and spread her hands. "I want to say this in advance. The sword has no eyes. You should have been killed by me on your side. My master didn't teach me the ability to spare people's lives. He said that no matter what I did, protect yourself is the first priority. If we fight for real, I can't guarantee your safety." "Ha!" Pei-Ching said indifferently. "I have heard about Qingming's swordsmanship for a long time. Legends said in the same cultivation level, Qingming's disciples are unrivaled. Today, I want to test that. Okay, now we're done with the chit-chat." Zui Yanfei raised her eyebrows and drew 2 spears from under the skirt, put them together. Tang Ruowei also sighed, twisted her wrist, and drew out her sword. The 4 disciples quietly spread apart. Pei Yuan and Pei-Ching faced Tang Ruowei, while the grumpy Pei Dao and another disciple faced Zui Yanfei. "Get ready." Zui Yanfei closed her eyes, took a deep breath, and then opened it suddenly. The spear pointed towards the non-speaking disciple like a dragon. Ruowei, let's kick their asses! Zui Yanfei's spear hit a blur barrier, making a clear sound. Zui Yanfei's spear hit a blur barrier, making a clear sound. The silver dragon-like spear spouted a real thing and was full of energy. Although the non-speaking cultivator had already prepared, he still groaned and was taken back by Zui Yanfei. Upon seeing that, Pei Dao roared, his palms glowed red, and he flew towards Zui Yanfei. His palms came one after another like a bombardment, but Zui Yanfei's long spear still blocked them all. In terms of cultivation level, Pei Dao was 2 substages higher than Zui Yanfei, thus the latter didn't intend to fight head-on for long. She took advantage of this to retreat, and used erratic footwork to run into the dense forest of Dingjiang Mountain. Pei Shan, go after her! Seeing that Zui Yanfei disappeared, Pei Dao stomped his foot and hurriedly chased. Another disciple who was less talked also stumbled into the ground, and used some technique of earth escape towards Zui Yanfei's direction. The remaining Pei Yuan and Pei Qing blocked Tang Ruowei, looking at her while sneering. Rest assured, we will not do anything to you. Pei Qing laughed. After all, we can't afford to offend Qi Ming's sword sect, so please hand over your weapon and surrender, then we will inform Qi Ming's sword sect's elders to come and take you back. Oh, I believe you. Tang Ruowei smiled and suddenly changed expression. Bullshit! She opened her mouth slightly, and a black sword beam shot out, approaching Pei Yuan's purple palace, but a light green barrier appeared in front of Pei Yuan, stopping the sword beam. However, Pei Yuan was still shocked by the impact of this attack and backed several steps. He secretly panicked, but said with a smile, Ha, do you think I would fall to the same trick twice? Girl, I can't stop your sword beam, but this talisman was made by a late Golden Core stage master. It should be enough to stop your attack. Give up, you have already dash. Before he finished talking, Tang Ruowei suddenly flash-stepped and approached him, raising her hand and placing his chest. The palm covered in a light black gravity force broke through the green barrier and left a handprint on Pei Yuan's chest. The powerful palm's strength immediately destroyed the muscles and bones of this Foundation establishment stage cultivator, and his purple palace was also shattered. From Pei Yuan's 7 orifices spewed out a burst of blood and his body fell to the ground, while Tang Ruowei stomped her feet, her figure sank into the ground and disappeared. Pei Yuan? At this time, Pei Qing from the side reacted. Damn, don't run! He took out a talisman and activated, and after prompting to inform the fellow companions, he raised his hand and summoned a golden sword, carrying himself towards the direction of Tang Ruowei's departure. At this point, several disciples of moon-worshipping sect were led into the interior of Dingjiang Mountain by Zui Yanfei and Tang Ruowei, leaving only Pei Yuan's body on the site. After a while, the ground tremored again, and in a burst of aura, Bai Qiuran appeared beside the stone statue. At this point, several disciples of moon-worshipping sect were led into the interior of Dingjiang Mountain by Zui Yanfei and Tang Ruowei, leaving only Pei Yuan's body on the site. After a while, the ground tremored again, and in a burst of aura, Bai Qiuran appeared beside the stone statue. Alas, why wouldn't you hear the sincere warning? People are too greedy. He looked at Pei Yuan's body lying next to him. In his special vision that he gained from crossing the boundary of life and death, Pei Yuan's soul was tied up with iron chains by several soul takers. Should I almost teach Ruowei how to capture others alive? When he looked over there, it happened that some of the soul takers over there also looked at him. They stared at each other for a second, then the soul takers seemed to have seen something scary, dragging Pei Yuan's soul and running into the void. Looking at the scene, Bai Qiuran didn't stop it, he just shook his head and sighed. Although Bai Qiuran did not advocate the self-mutilation of human races, he knew it's inevitable in the realm of cultivation. According to what he heard, Tang Ruowei had already killed a disciple when she was attacked last time. The other side should know that she has that ability. And before the fight started, Tang Ruowei and Zui Yanfei have announced the name of the sect. After all the good words, Tang Ruowei reminded me again and again that they might die, but the disciple of moon-worshipping sect still ignored. It's as if a person was going to jump around in front of others, while clamoring, "Come and kill me!" Then if this person is really killed, no one would sympathize with him. Baichuran also glanced at the disciples who chased after two girls. Behind Zui Yanfei was a cultivator in the middle of the Foundation establishment stage, and one in the peak of the Foundation establishment stage, while chasing Tang Ruowei was the one in the so-called quasi-golden core stage. At this level, the cultivator's true chi have condensed to the extreme within the Purple Palace and had a spontaneous solidification trend, and the cultivators also had some characteristics of the golden core stage. However, after all, he was still a cultivator in the Foundation establishment stage, so Baichuran didn't worry about his apprentice at all. As long as he didn't have a real golden core, with the moves he taught and her own wisdom, she would not lose. Thinking of this, Baichuran lazily scanned the stone statue of the first emperor of Ding Kingdom, and then sat on the stone platform at the foot of the stone statue. After a while, a roaring wind sounded in the sky, and several people wearing similar costumes to the previous moon-worshipping sect disciples, surrounding a golden core cultivator, landed from the sky on a colorful flying sword. "Master, the place where senior brother Pei Qing activated the talisman is here." One of the disciples looked around and found Pei Yuan's body lying on the ground and Baichuran sitting on the stone platform at the foot of the stone statue. "That's Pei Yuan? Master, he's dead. Calm down. You, put away Pei Yuan's body." The golden core cultivator, who looked like an old Taoist, shouted a command, then looked at Baichuran and asked, "Fellow Taoist, can you tell me, who killed this man?" Hey, so polite. Baichuran thought about it for a while, but he looked up at the sky and showed an "I don't care" expression. "God knows, maybe I was killed by me." "Fellow Taoist, are you joking?" The old Taoist plucked his beard and said with his hands behind his back, "Let the old man guess. My disciple Pei Qing reported that Pei Shan died in the hands of a female cultivator in the Foundation establishment stage, and according to information, this time, among the ones who investigated the case of the prince, there was a group that is a combination of 2 Foundation establishment stage women and 1 Qi refining stage man. It is your senior sister who killed Pei Yuan, right? Pei Qing and others are not here, that means they chase after the other 2. Fellow Taoist, do you think what will happen to your sister when you are caught? It's hard to tell. Baichuran shrugged his shoulders. My senior sisters will not stop until the truth of the case is found. Let's be honest, as you might guess, the crown prince was killed by my senior brother. He directly using the spell to destroy the heart, and the blame was put on the demons. In this way, we moon-worshipping sect not only can help the second prince to come to power, control the country from behind the scenes, but also, under the name of the revenge for the crown prince, kill those few demons and get their inner cores to refine pills. This is kill 2 birds with 1 stone. The old man sighed. Even if you know what happened, even if you can persuade Emperor Chu Ping to open the chest of the prince, and find out the real cause of death, there is no way of verifying who is doing it. Well, I know that you come from famous sects, but your sect elders are not here. You still have no way to face a golden core cultivator. Although we can't get rid of you directly, tying you up and waiting for some time is easy. After the dust settles, let your sect elders come to get you back. It still provides the same result. The gap in strength is so great, I advise you not to try something reckless. After he finished, he gestured, and a group of disciples around gathered up. Oh, wait a minute. Baichuran reached out to stop. In order to avoid the guilt-free situation of the unknowing, let me make it clear first. My junior sister and I are from the Qiming Sword Sect, and the other one is from the Heavenly Army. It is best to think about it before you start. And I'm also not an ordinary Qi refining stage. Maybe this dead guy was killed by me? Okay, friend, the bluff ends here. The old man looked at Pei Yuan's body and said lightly, Do you think we will believe you? Pei Yuan's body began to fracture from the chest, and it was obvious that he's killed by a brutal and domineering palm technique, and there is a huge amount of true Qi still remain in his body. You're just a Qi refining stage, how can you have true Qi? Baichuran has always had a pain in his heart. Baichuran has always had a pain in his heart. As a cultivator in the 66, 664th, no, the 66,665th layer of the Qi refining stage. Although after 3,000 years, he tried to make up for all his shortcomings, there were always a few aspects that he could not make up for it. One of them was the true Qi. The Qi sea within Baiqiuran was almost infinite. Even if he had an immeasurable amount of Qi right now, the goal of filling the Qi sea was still out of reach, so the thought of compressing his Qi into true Qi has become a luxury. Without the true Qi, he couldn't perform some of the most basic postures for the foundation establishment stage, such as flying by the sword or casting spells. Although hand seal could be used to make up for spells, in the end, one kind of hand seal could only make up for one attribute of the spell. Some spells even needed to use the true Qi to mobilize the vitality of several attributes at the same time. For such a spell, Baiqiuran could only stare and jealous. Riding the flying sword was even more painful in Baiqiuran's heart. In his youth, when his master hasn't ascended yet, his senior brother has a hobby, to take the girlfriend out for a ride, and Baiqiuran could only stand on the mountain, watching enviously. So after the old man said something like, "You are a Qi refining stage cultivator. And how can you have true Qi?" Baiqiuran felt that his blood was boiling. However, adhering to the principle that a gentleman should speak first before use violence, Baiqiuran was still patient, and persuaded the group of disciples who worshipped the moon worship. "You better not do it, you will regret it, really regret it." "Ha, little friend, I have seen such this kind of bluff more times than the number of meals in your life." The golden core stage old man waved. "Okay, I'll give you a chance. If you can release a flying sword, I will consider this as your win and let you go." Baiqiuran's expression collapsed as if someone just forced him to eat shit. "Ha ha, you can't, can you?" Behind the old man, a disciple of moon-worshipping sect pointed at Baiqiuran and smiled. "You can't even release a flying sword, you really are bluffing. Brothers, come, let this young Bai in the Qi refining stage see what the flying sword looks like." The disciples of moon-worshipping sect laughed together, and then released their respective flying swords, and some even manipulated the flying sword, deliberately dangling in front of Baiqiuran's nose, teasing his nerves. "You're forcing me too much." A group of foundation establishment stage cultivators combined to bully me, a Qi refining stage cultivator. This is so unfair. Baiqiuran lowered his head, his face was as black as ink, but suddenly raised his head again, and showed a cold smile to the disciples of moon-worshipping sect. "Huh, who said I don't have a flying sword? Don't regret it." His hand flicked, and he took out a bundle of ropes made of demon's tendon from the storage bag. "I will show you now. I have a sword." Baiqiuran raised his hand, and the rope flew out, entwining the huge stone sword in the hands of the stone statue of the first emperor of the Ding kingdom. When he pulled hard, the palm of the statue shattered, and the huge stone sword was suddenly torn up by him, thrown in the air, and the wind gusted out loudly. "Oh my God!" All disciples' faces changed the time, and even the face of the old man became extremely pale. As a golden core cultivator, if he tried his best, he was able to break the mountain and open the valley, but a feat like this, pulling a heavy stone sword that was 30 to 40 meters long and thicker than the waist of two people, and waving it like a whip by physical strength alone, that's outside his ability. "Fellow Taoist, no, senior." The old man quickly raised his hand. "Please calm down." "Fuck your calm down." Baiqiuran's Qi permeated the stone sword, and the stone sword suddenly emitted a magnificent glory. He snorted and pulled the stone sword, patting the group of disciples. "I am most annoyed when someone talk about the flying sword in front of me. Do you like flying sword that much? Good, a flying sword is coming." The sword was full of energy, like a stone wall pressed towards the disciples of moon-worshipping sect. Only the golden core stage master could react. A tactic, a golden light appeared all over his body, his palms pushed towards the body of the stone sword. With a loud bang, the old man's energy barrier, which looked like an indestructible shield, was overwhelmed by the endless Qi, and almost instantly shattered. The old man him was pressed by the stone sword and spit a big mouthful of blood. With a loud bang, a deep sword-shaped crater appeared near the stone statue, and the disciples of moon-worshipping sect, like their masters, spit out blood and were beaten out. Although none of them died, they were seriously injured and lay on the ground, groaning in pain. How do you like my flying sword? Seeing this, Baichuran snorted coldly, pulling the rope back, and inserted the stone sword back into place without any errors. Deep in the dense forest of Dingjiang Mountain, Zui Yanfei galloped all the way, using the footwork of the heavenly army and her familiarity with the terrain of the mountain forest, constantly shuttled through the dense forest, from time to time making harassment attacks on Pei Shan and Pei Dao behind her. Deep in the dense forest of Dingjiang Mountain, Zui Yanfei galloped all the way, using the footwork of the heavenly army and her familiarity with the terrain of the mountain forest, constantly shuttled through the dense forest, from time to time making harassment attacks on Pei Shan and Pei Dao behind her. Pei Shan and Pei Dao were also irritated by Zui Yanfei's actions and did not notice that with Zui Yanfei's footwork and familiarity with the terrain, she could easily escape if she wanted. Chasing all the way, the two followed Zui Yanfei and came to a deep canyon that could only accommodate one person in and out. Zui Yanfei come in, and Pei Shan and Pei Dao followed without hesitation, but halfway, they saw Zui Yanfei stopped. "Haha, why don't you continue to run? Is your true qi exhausted?" Pei Dao sneered and squeezed his fist. "Surrender and we'll not harm you. Although Brother Pei Qing said so, you little girl has teased us for so long, it's unreasonable not to take for some benefits from you. Miss, only people who can endure the pain of the flesh for a while would have a future. A cultivator in the middle of the foundation establishment stage and one in the peak of the foundation establishment stage deal with you who are in the middle of the foundation establishment stage, and our attribute counters yours. Even if you are a disciple of the heavenly army, it is impossible to beat us." Pei Shan also advised. "Relax, we will neither endanger your life nor harm your virginity." "Oh, it seems that there is a lot of things you don't know about heavenly army." Zui Yanfei stepped on the foot, and two short guns in his hand synthesized a long gun. "For example, our disciples of the heavenly army are able to overcome the disadvantage in the attributes and fight one-on-two with enemies who have a higher level." Having said that, she launched her true qi and activated the secret technique of the heavenly army. Heavenly army was a sect with the concept of training warriors. Their specialty was not only the use of various types of equipment and melee combat but also the characteristics of being stronger in fierce battles. For a soldier, on the battlefield, it's inevitable that there were times they had to face a large number of opponents at once or a much stronger opponent, but as a qualified fighter, even in death, they must drag the enemy to hell with them. Based on this concept, the commander-in-chief of the heavenly army has developed a unique technique. Using it, a disciple would gain a power bonus when using the heavenly army's moves. The more serious the injury, the greater the power. And when the injury reached a certain degree, this unique skill would also stimulate the true qi, repairing the user's body autonomously, so that the user could continue to fight for a long time. High-level members of the heavenly arm were the killing machine on the battlefield. One could kill 100 enemies, all because of this terrifying technique. Its name was Last Stand. With a low roar, the true qi in Zui Yanfei's body ran like wild horses. Her blood was boiling. "Every single one of your guesses is wrong. I brought you here, not because of exhaustion, or because of begging for mercy, but because—" The silver spear in her hand moved like a silver dragon. The heroine held the spear with one hand, and the other was pointing at Pei Shan and Pei Dao, shouting, "It's because I want to defeat you here and reverse the battle situation." Tang Ruo's body constantly shuttled in the soil. She could feel that the cultivator behind was constantly chasing her, full of anger. "As far as I'm concerned, I've said that you will die if you shoot. You don't believe it, yet still blame the dead on me again." The girl felt that she was wrong, but did not stop and continued to escape. In fact, the earth escape technique taught to her by Baichuran could easily let her escape from a quasi-golden core cultivator, but Tang Ruowei had some ideas, thus she deliberately slowed down the speed so that Pei Qing could catch up with her. "Why do I have to depend on your mood to act? This lady is in a bad mood too. Do you think that our sect is far away, so you dare to bully me and sister so?" The more she thought, the angrier she became. Suddenly, Tang Ruowei simply stopped the earth escape technique, got out of the soil, and waited. Pei Qing quickly arrived. Seeing Tang Ruowei stood there, he sneered. Humph, why don't you run? Because after think about it carefully, why should I run? As Tang Ruowei said, she turned around and looked at Pei Qing. In terms of background, I am a disciple of Qing Ming's sword sex's strongest person. In terms of weapon, I have the highest grade flying sword that master refined to me. In terms of technique, I practice the most advanced exercises, learn the most powerful move. In terms of qualifications, I have the heavenly level spiritual root. In terms of morality, I protect the lives of innocent people whom you are plotting to wrongly blame. It is also you who ignore my advice and attack me first. So why should I run? You should be the one who has to run. Oh? Pei Qing also said. That saved me a lot of things. I changed my mind. Little girl, you killed Pei Shan and Pei Yuan. If I can't let you pay a little price, I'm not worthy for my brothers. Then, Tang Ruowei bit her lips. See my sword! The girl opened her small mouth. Another black sword beam flashed away. The speed and power of this sword beam exceeded the reaction ability of a quasi-golden core cultivator, and hit Pei Qing in the blink of an eye. However, Pei Qing was also well prepared, and with a crisp sound, there seemed to be some emerald green light barrier around his body. The sword beam was reflected, turning back into the Kunling sword, wandering beside Tang Ruowei. The same moves will not work twice on me. Pei Qing sneered and raised his hand. Is it? Tang Ruowei stepped a few steps forward and launched a palm with the power of gravity toward Pei Qing. The latter also countered with a backhand palm. The two palms collided together, black and green true chi exploded from the collision point, lifting the surrounding soil layer by more than 1 foot thick. Humph! After Pei Qing took 2 steps back, his blood rushed up and his face turned red, but he's still saying. Nothing special. What else can you do? Tang Ruowei ignored him and controlled the Kunling sword twirled Bu her side. The black sword beam struck again, but this time it was caught by Pei Qing, and his green true chi blocked the Kunling sword and made it unable to break through. I have said that this trick is useless to me, Pei Qing said coldly. You run of tech. Before he finished speaking, Tang Ruowei stepped forward suddenly, stretched out her palm, and slapped heavily on the handle of the Kunling sword. If the power of one move was not enough to break through the defense, then the easiest way was to superimpose the power of the 2 moves. Tang Ruowei's unparalleled palm strength pushed the sword, the tip of the blade instantly broke through Pei Qing's defense, and penetrated into his chest, completely shattered his internal organs. Pei Qing spat out blood and fell to the ground, but he did not die immediately. You didn't die? You deserve to be a quasi-golden core cultivator. Tang Ruowei blinked and admired. It's amazing. Pei Qing looked at Tang Ruowei with a look of horror and unwillingness, but he already lost all strength to move. I can't save you. Tang Ruowei shook her head. What's more, I already warned you, but you still attack me. I can only give you a painless death. Her index finger and middle finger rose together, her thumb pressed her ring finger and little finger, and the Kunling sword cut through Pei Qing's throat. There was a trace of giving up and relief in Pei Qing's eyes. He relaxed his body and stopped breathing. Remember not to do such injustice in your next life, Tang Ruowei said, pulling the Kunling sword out. The tip of the sword brought a trace of blood, which was cleaned by Tang Ruowei. She thought for a while, then raised her hand and patted the ground. A big pit that was more than 2 meters long and 1 meter wide suddenly appeared. The girl walked to Pei Qing's body, lifted him up with one hand, threw his corpse into the pit, and then used great happening primordial gravity to manipulate the surrounding soil to close up, leaving only a small stone as the tombstone on this pit. After doing all this, Tang Ruowei clapped her hands and stood up. There is nothing to worry about those demons. They are guarded by him. It is estimated that no one in the world can hurt them. The girl whispered to herself. I should find Sister Zwe first. There are 2 people chased after her, and their attributes counter hers. Her fight may not be easier than mine. Tang Ruowei used the earth escape technique to chase along the of Zui Yanfei's direction. After stopped several times, using her soul awareness and the methods that Zui Yanfei had just taught her to identify the trail, she found the route of Zui Yanfei and the other two. Tang Ruowei used the earth escape technique to chase along the of Zui Yanfei's direction. After stopped several times, using her soul awareness and the methods that Zui Yanfei had just taught her to identify the trail, she found the route of Zui Yanfei and the other two. When she came to the valley where Zui Yanfei and Pei Dao and Pei Shan were fighting, a flood surge broke out inside the valley and two figures flew out. She recognized those were Pei Dao and Pei Shan. Two disciples of moon-worshipping sect fell on the ground, spat out a mouthful of blood, while Zui Yanfei held the spear and stepped out of the valley stride. Her armor had been shredded and exposed a large piece of snow-white skin, but her eyes were red, and a light blue true chi surrounded her. Tang Ruowei glanced a little and gulped. Zui Yanfei's figure was quite graceful. It's not visible when wearing armor, but now that the armor was broken, two huge breasts she possessed was revealed, making Tang Ruowei feel very jealous. Come! Zui Yanfei stretched out her hand and waved Pei Dao and Pei Shan. Keep going! What monster is this woman? Pei Dao gasped and scolded. Is this the true power of the 5 major sects in the Righteous Alliance? This is still the case with the Heavenly Army. What about the Qingming Sword sect who claims to be unrivaled in one-on-one combat capabilities? Hi, how are you? Tang Ruowei greeted them. The two were startled and Pei Dao asked in horror. Why are you here? Where is senior brother Pei Qing? Oh. Tang Ruowei thought about the wording, then pointed behind and said, I buried him on the hill over there. You're definitely a disciple of Qingming Sword sect. Zui Yanfei nodded, smiled at Tang Ruowei, and then continued to apply the pressure on the two. Do you still want to continue fighting? Pei Dao and Pei Shan looked at each other, then Pei Shan raised his hand and said, 2 heroines, we surrender. Hand over your weapon. Tang Ruowei glanced at them and said, If you have the idea of letting your master and brothers come to the aid, then give it up as soon as possible. To tell you the truth, my master is also nearby. He is definitely able to deal with 1 or 2 golden core cultivators. Pei Shan smiled bitterly, surrendered his flying sword and talisman, and then squatted down quite consciously. Pei Dao was a little dissatisfied, but Pei Shan persuaded him. Brother, surrender, there is no more fight, 15 minutes. Pei Dao snorted and surrendered his things rather helplessly. The two squatted down holding their heads, and Zui Yanfei and Tang Ruowei stood together. Tang Ruowei looked at Zui Yanfei's chest with some envy and said, Sister's was curve is really good. Oh? Zui Yanfei looked down and then smiled. What's so good about these useless slumps of meat? It's uncomfortable to wear armor and increase the collision area when evading. The only benefit is that I always have a dumbbell to exercise my shoulders and waist. Tang Ruowei's face was black, and she murmured verbally, The full cannot understand the hungry. Zui Yanfei did not hear her complain. The female soldier smiled and turned to Tang Ruowei, saying, There isn't much time. Let's tie them up first and then. Be careful! Suddenly Zui Yanfei exclaimed, reaching out and pushing away Tang Ruowei, then kicked Pei Shan and Pei Dao, sent them to fly away, and finally, she jumped up. At the next moment, a violent explosion suddenly occurred on the spot. Tang Ruowei was pushed away and flew out. After landing on the ground, she quickly turned her head to look around. Countless emerald green vines were slowly emerging from a large pit on the ground. They somehow extended out and twisted into a bundle. Behind these vines, more vines were crawling along the ground, covered the mountain. Under the stone statue of the Ding Kingdom Emperor, Bai Qiuran walked to the Golden Core Master who was fainted, grabbed his collar, and slapped his face. Under the stone statue of the Ding Kingdom Emperor, Bai Qiuran walked to the Golden Core Master who was fainted, grabbed his collar, and slapped his face. Hello, are you awake? The old man woke up confusedly. When he saw Bai Qiuran in front of him, he was so frightened that he suddenly waved his hands. Senior, please spare my life. If I don't, you already died. Bai Qiuran grabbed his shirt and forced to ask. Let me ask you a question. Is there still a group of your people on the way? Yes, yes, yes. The old man asked for mercy. Senior, please calm down, and I will persuade them to leave. We will give up these demons and leave it to the senior. Stop. Baichuran continued to ask. Which direction will your sect come from? I led the disciples to guard the east, the sect leader was in the north, and my junior brother was in the west. The old man said. They may join in the middle and come from the north. It's strange. Baichuran loosened his grip on the old man's collar and said, The disciple of your sect activated all communication talismans at once. You should have received the message at about the same time. You have been here for so long, why have they not come over? I don't know, the old man whispered. Baichuran ignored him, opened his soul awareness, radiated out along the Dingjiang mountain, and then he saw the green vines all over the mountain. It's quite troublesome. He opened his eyes. That demon has started to go crazy. Baichuran lowered his head and pondered, shouting to the old man. Hey! I'm here, the old man said quickly. Stay here, guard your disciples, don't go anywhere, don't touch those demons, do you understand? While talking, Baichuran took out an iron sword from the storage bag. Understood. The old man nodded. I'll go for a while. Throwing away the iron sword, Baichuran stomped, jumped up, and disappeared from the sight of the old man. On the other side, Zui Yanfei, Tang Ruowei, and the two disciples of moon-worshipping sect looked at the vines all over the mountain with horror. On the other side, Zui Yanfei, Tang Ruowei, and the two disciples of moon-worshipping sect looked at the vines all over the mountain with horror. What is the level of this demon? Zui Yanfei took a deep breath. I don't know, but I think it's probably the one behind those foxes. Tang Ruowei glanced at Pei Dao and Pei Shan. Look like your plotting against those little demons has pissed the old one. Apparently it's out of your expectation, isn't it? The vines all over the mountain squirmed like tentacles, and suddenly spit out something from the crevices of the vines. The four people looked closely and found that it was a broken hand, holding a golden flag in their hands. That's the token of the sect leader. Pei Shan's face lost all colors. How is it possible? Do you still have the time to worry about your sect leader? Zui Yanfei smiled bitterly. If we can't figure out a method now, I'm afraid we are going to accompany him too. Ruowei, can your earth escape be used? Tang Ruowei tried it and replied. No, the soil is blocked by the demon's power. What? No, I just remembered that I buried their senior brother in the soil. Tang Ruowei glanced at Pei Shan and Pei Dao. Now, Pei Shan and Pei Dao's faces suddenly seemed to like they just had to swallow old shit. Don't worry about that much, Zui Yanfei said. Attention, it's coming! The whole mountain swayed, the soil layer exploded like waves, and numerous vines were drilled from the ground, weaving into a huge net, heading towards Zui Yanfei and Tang Ruowei. Whether it was Zui Yanfei's spear or Tang Ruowei's sword beam, in front of this vine web, they were like ants, small and useless. When the four people were about to be covered by this vine net, a sword beam suddenly appeared on the horizon, shuttled to form a silver mist. In front of the four people, the big net of vines and a vine nearby was cut together with the ground. The piece of vine seemed to have suffered damage and flinched slightly, and then a vicious female voice was heard from the verdant vine. Qingming Sword Patriarch. I didn't want to be called by that title. After all, I'm just a qi refining stage cultivator. A white figure appeared in front of the four people. A man with white hair and white eyebrows. What? Zui Yanfei opened his mouth in amazement. Brother Baichuran? He is actually my master. Tang Ruowei took Zui Yanfei's hand and said, Come on, sisters, let's avoid it a little bit, just leave it to master. Zui Yanfei looked at Baichuran, and suddenly she understood. After thinking about it, she followed Tang Ruowei and went to hide in the distance. Pei Shan and Pei Dao glanced at each other, and quickly followed the two girls. Seeing his disciples doing so, Baichuran nodded in satisfaction, then said to the vines all over the mountains, Long time no see, Cui Luo. Yeah, long time no see. The female voice said resentfully. For 2,000 years, I have been thinking day and night how to tear up your hypocritical face. Okay. Baichuran touched his chin and said positively. Then do you want to try it right now? To tell you the truth, I have been suppressing my advancement recently, so I can only fight with 1/10 of my power now. This is a good opportunity for you. Humph! The female voice sneered. Do you think I will believe you? In the war 2,000 years ago, how many demons died under Qing Ming's sword patriarch's tricks? Ugh! Baichuran waved his hand. In this regard, this Baichuran always treats people with sincerity, but these demons don't believe me. They walk to the death themselves. How can I stop them? After a pause, he said again. But this time, I really didn't lie to you. I suppressed my advancement in order to break through the foundation establishment stage, and the strength I can exert without breaking through is indeed 1/10. Baichuran looked at somewhat provocatively and said, So, do you want to try it? Ah. The female voice chuckled, then snapped. Do you think I don't dare? As she screamed, the mountains and vines rose up, and several nearby hills also exploded at the same time, revealing the countless vines inside. The surrounding strata have been hollowed out by the big demon, leaving only a thin shell, and the vines that broke out of the shell condensed into a tall and enormous giant. With a roar, the giant formed from the vines punched toward Baichuran. The blow created a strong wind that swept the ground. Even Tang Ruowei and others who were hiding in the distance were blown away. The blow created a strong wind that swept the ground. Even Tang Ruowei and others who were hiding in the distance were blown away. Facing such a powerful punch, Baichuran laughed softly. Pathetic. He raised his arm and opened his hand. The woven giant of the vines suddenly gleamed with an endless green light which gathered towards his palm. The fist that was enough to smash the mountain, before reaching Baichuran's face, suddenly turned white-gray and dissipated into ashes. The green light disappeared, and the giant's whole body collapsed. A green-haired woman in a green dress fell out of the giant's body, covering her chest, and looked at Baichuran with a pale face. Although you are a plant spirit, I also have heavenly level with spiritual root. Baichuran withdrew his hand and squeezed it gently. The green life energy in his hand turned into a light spot and returned to the earth. Although you are already an old hag, you are still too young in front of me. Ha! The green-haired woman sneered. The Qi Ming Sword Patriarch is a hypocritical person who can shamelessly tell lies. First, I have no obligation to tell you the truth. You and I are enemies. Baichuran stretched out 2 fingers and sneered. Second, who do you think you are? If I want to win against you, do I need to use a lie like this? He tilted his head slightly and looked at Cui Luo with squinted eyes. I only have 1/10 of the strength, but this 1/10 of the strength is enough to conquer the demon world. Little old hag, not mention you, even if the demon emperor comes, he won't go back to the demon world alive. Cui Luo stared at him in silence. Moreover, even if you can withstand 1/10 of my strength, I can immediately take out 2/10 and 3/10 of the strength to fight back. Baichuran pinched his nostrils and said, You are not calm enough, Cui Luo. My worst result is just to break through another layer of the Qi refining stage, but at least I will be able to use you as a punching bag. I am still happy. You came to 9 provinces this time not to avenge me, right? Cui Luo rolled his eyes, coldly said, Where is Princess Bai Ling? Protected by me. Baichuran glanced at Cui Luo's face. Relax, I won't do anything to the daughter of the White Fox King. Once the demon emperor dies, the 10 demon kings of the demon world will fight for the throne. The fiercer you fight, the happier our human race will be. I won't interfere with the internal affairs of your demon world. Have the princess told you? Have the princess told you? Cui Luo's face collapsed. Oh, of course, she told me all. Baichuran sneered akimbo. Do you really think she is on your side? She's just a half-human, half-demon child. The result of the demon emperor came to our world and raped human females. When the Kamasutra sect killed her mother and forced her to join, did the demon clan do anything? Do you think that giving her an empty title, and she was willing to follow you back to the demon world and be loyal to the demon clan? Chui Luo bit her lower lip and said nothing. When she was forced by her master to become a tool to gather male essence, that's me who rescued her, killed her master, helped her become the leader of the Kama Sutra sect, helped her to implement her reforms and improve the relationship between the evil alliance and the righteous alliance. At this moment, of course, she is going to help me. Bai Qiuran looked at Chui Luo with disdain and continued. Of course, I'm naturally on her side. I know what game the Demon Emperor is playing. He wants to get his blood back to help calm the demon world, or provoke a war to pass on internal conflicts, right? As long as Su Xiangxue disagree, don't even think about it. I tell you, this time it's moon-worshipping sect's fault. You killed half of them, I will still let you go, but the next time it happened, I'll come to the demon world myself and cut the demon emperor's head. If someone else said so, Chui Luo might sneer, but Bai Qiuran had already proven his strength as early as 2,000 years ago. Chui Luo gradually calmed down as her fear gradually overwhelmed her anger and hatred. Bai Qiuran, you... She straightened up and wanted to continue to say something, but suddenly there was a sound of music came from the forests, interrupting their confrontation. Finally willing to come out. Hearing this sound, Bai Qiuran murmured, and Chui Luo's face changed. Princess? Okay, Chui Luo, stop here. Mr. Bai, please don't stimulate her nerves anymore. A voice that sounded like a yellow warbler came out of the valley, and the sound alone made the bones softened. Anyway, Tang Ruowei and Zui Yanfei clearly saw that at the moment Pei Shan and Pei Dao heard this voice, their whole body shook twice as if they were hit by lightning. When the words fell, a white figure came close, and a beautiful lady appeared in front of everyone. She covered her face with a white veil and only exposed a pair of beautiful eyes. The plain white, simple long dress, when worn by her, radiated a special charm. This beauty held a jade music instrument, and stood between Bai Qiuran and Chui Luo. Her eyes swept across the audience, and paused indistinctly on Tang Ruowei's body before placing it on Bai Qiuran and Chui Luo. By her eyes, even Zui Yanfei and Tang Ruowei felt a little blushing, not to mention Pei Shan and Pei Dao on the side. Their saliva already came out like spring, yet they themselves did not notice. Chui Luo. Su Xiangxue said softly to Tseluo on the side. Princess Bai Ling and her maids have been brought over by me, please take them away. When you go back, please tell the White Fox King, this world is sinister, he should discipline his daughter better. If she comes to 9 provinces next time, then we humans have no obligation to help him continue to find his daughter. Princess. Chui Luo hesitated and asked, did the Qingming Sword Patriarch just say the truth? It is true. Su Xiangxue nodded without hesitation. If human and demon start the war, I must stand on the side of Mr. Bai. Just go back, do you think that the Demon Emperor really doesn't know where my heart is? She looked at Chui Luo and gently opened her lips. Come on, Chui Luo, although it may be useless, I still advise you to let go of the hatred. Princess, are you also telling Chui Luo those principles? Chui Luo excited. No, I am a demonic cultivator. Of course, I believe that hatred must be reported, but your hatred obviously cannot be reported. Su Xiangxue gave Bai Qiuran a glance. Furthermore, although I didn't witness the war between human and demon, after listening to it, I thought that your mother deserves to die. Live well, Chui Luo, in this life, you should live for yourself, not for your mother. Chui Luo's life is only for revenge. Chui Luo replied stubbornly. Ah, then you go. Su Xiangxue sighed. Princess Bai Ling is on the way. Goodbye. Chui Luo gave Su Xiangxue a complicated look and said goodbye. Chui Luo is leaving. Princess, please be cherished. I remember. Seeing her turn away, Bai Qiuran suddenly said, there is no next time. Chui Luo gritted her teeth, glanced at Bai Qiuran, then turned into a vine, dived into the soil, and disappeared. After throwing Pei Shan and Pei Dao to the Golden Core old man and telling him to visit soon, Bai Qiuran brought Tang Ruowei and Zui Yanfei to Su Xiangxue. After throwing Pei Shan and Pei Dao to the Golden Core old man and telling him to visit soon, Bai Qiuran brought Tang Ruowei and Zui Yanfei to Su Xiangxue. Let me introduce to you, this is Su Xiangxue, the current leader of the Kamasutra sect, and one of the 3 big shots of the Evil Alliance. Bai Qiuran patted Su Xiangxue's incensed shoulders as if she were an iron buddy. Remember to keep away from her when you meet her next time. Zui Yanfei and Tang Ruowei looked at each other, but when they saw the smile in Su Xiangxue's eyes, they bowed politely. Nice to meet you, sect leader Su. Actually, don't be so restrictive. This one is a reformist. Under her leadership, the Kamasutra sect has not killed anyone. At present, the chain store of Pleasure Realm has opened in several provinces, and it has been well received. Bai Qiuran rolled his eyes and said, Of course, this one in front of me is still not to be underestimated. The exercise she cultivated is phantom charm combined with the demon race's royal techniques. After my improvement, it has reached the level of being able to call the sky down and rain or blizzard. She can make any cultivator under the nascent soul stage orgasm uncontrollably. Therefore, if you are courageous, you can call her Mistress of Pleasure Flood. Su Xiangxue rolled her eyes and raised her hand to cover Bai Qiuran's mouth. Then she smiled at Tang Ruowei and Zui Yanfei. Don't listen to him talking nonsense. 2 little girls, if something happens in the future, you can go to the Pleasure Realm to ask for help, just say my name. So beautiful, hold on. Tang Ruowei shook her head diligently to remind herself of her sexual orientation, then looked at Bai Qiuran and asked, Sect leader Su, are you related to the demon race? Yes. Bai Qiuran glanced at Su Xiangxue. Su Xiangxue nodded to him indifferently, so Bai Qiuran continued to say, She has half of the dragon blood on her body, and the current emperor of the demon race is a 9-headed dragon. What do you mean by the so-called demon race, demon emperor, demon world? Tang Ruowei continued to ask. The demon race is our collective name for all non-human living beings that have spirits. Plants, rocks, animals, monsters, after awakened spirits and practice transformation, we call them demons. As the name suggests, the demon emperor is the demon race's leader, who controls the demon world. And the demon world is another world that was opened in the void by the first-generation demon emperor countless years ago and is connected to the 9 provinces through a rift in space. Bai Qiuran explained. The woman just now is the messenger from the demon race. And the white fox is the daughter of one of the 10 demon kings in the demon race. Oh. Tang Ruowei thought about it and finally asked the question he always wanted to ask. So why does she hate you so much? You dumped her? Although Tang Ruowei was a princess, she's a girl after all, and every girl liked drama and gossip. Oh, that's because I killed her mother. Bai Qiuran replied unchanged. So she hates me for granted. What? Tang Ruowei and Zui Yanfei looked at him blankly. 2,000 years ago, the human race at that time had finally gained the upper hand in the battle with the devils and drove or slaughtered the remaining devils in the 9 provinces. At this time, the demon emperor thought this was a good opportunity, so he gathered an army and invaded the 9 provinces. Su Xiangxue sighed and added to Bai Qiuran. Leading by the 5 major sects of the Righteous Alliance and the 3 main sects of the Evil Alliance, the human race gathered the power of countless cultivators and fought for a long time before they beat the demon back again. At the end of the war, the crown prince of the demon race, in order to obtain military food, carried out an inhuman massacre of the mortals of Lin province at that time, which lasted 10 days and 10 nights. The history called that incident, Lin Province 10 Massacre. Later, the demon race surrendered completely. In the process of withdrawing troops, a man chased them into the demon world and killed the demon race's crown prince and the strategist who advised him, as well as all accompanying sergeants. This person is... Tang Ruowei and Zui Yanfei glanced at Bai Qiuran. Humph! Bai Qiuran smiled proudly, pointing his thumb at his face. Yes, it's me, Bai Qiuran. It's hard to believe. It's hard to believe. Tang Ruowei turned her head and said. The strategist who made suggestions for the demon prince at that time was a demon transformed from a vine, who was bloodthirsty, and slaughtered a large number of humans. Her name is Cui Mu. She is Cui Luo's mother. Su Xiangxue's eyelids drooped slightly. Of course, as a mother, she is very good with Cui Luo, Otherwise Chui Luo will not hate Bai Qiu so much for 2,000 years. So what about this demon Chui Luo? Tang Ruowei asked. She isn't like her mother who murders as a hobby, but in case someone provokes her, Bai Qiuran said. You have also seen that the result of the sect leader and disciples of moon-worshipping sect. What? Tang Ruowei froze. Then why do you still spare this kind of demon? Didn't you teach me burn evil ones till its roots? It's difficult to explain to you in words. Bai Qiuran lowered his head and thought for a moment, then said to Tang Ruowei. Wait a second. His figure suddenly disappeared in front of the three men. In the next moment, he hurried back again, along with Chui Luo, who was completely confused. Qingming Sword Patriarch? After a moment of confusion, Chui Luo exclaimed. Are you having second thoughts? I knew it. You human can't be trusted. I'm in the middle of a class, please cooperate. Bai Qiuran pressed her shoulder, then suddenly made a left uppercut and hit Chui Luo's face. Next, he beat her brutally with a rapid fistcuff, and then he picked up Chui Luo and condensed his vitality to heal the bruise on the demon's face. Look! Bai Qiuran pointed to Chui Luo, who was beaten up, and said to Tang Ruowei. That's why I let her go. I seem to understand. Tang Ruowei nodded. But I also know the reason why you have been single for 3,000 years. Qingming Sword Patriarch. The next moment, Chui Luo reacted, screamed, and flung over. Today I'll do anything to kill you! Alas, Chui Luo, calm down. Su Xiangxue quickly stopped her. If you want to take revenge, you should escort Princess Bai Ling back to the demon world first. That's it. Bai Qiuran waved his hands disdainfully. This Bai Qiuran always keeps his words. If I say I'll spare you this time, then you'll be alive this time. Run away quickly. Su Xiangxue had to spend a long time calm Chui Luo down and persuade her to go back to the foxes. After returning, the head of the Kamasutra sect said to Bai Qiuran very resentfully, You're really a troublemaker. Hey, I did it just because you were here. Bai Qiuran shamelessly waved his hand. If you meet a handsome man in the future, and it is not easy to drain his male essence, you can also tell me. I will help you to look out. Bai Qiuran took the other three people back to the nearby town. Of course, along the way, he made Su Xiangxue angry many times. At this time, the leader of the Kamasutra sect would not be polite. She hit him with the jade instrument. Bai Qiuran took the other three people back to the nearby town. Of course, along the way, he made Su Xiangxue angry many times. At this time, the leader of the Kamasutra sect would not be polite. She hit him with the jade instrument. Arriving in the city, Bai Qiuran temporarily left Zui Yanfei and Tang Ruowei in the pleasure realm of Su Xiangxue, while he went to the mountain where the moon worshipper sect located. Because the business atmosphere of the Kamasutra sect obviously discomforted the two girls, Su Xiangxue took them to the backyard of the pleasure realm. A secluded courtyard was built for her to stay temporarily, or for elders to discuss major issues. You shouldn't think that he let Chui Luo carelessly. He is an old man. When people live for too long, they tend to become childish. Seeing that Bai Qiuran was gone, Su Xiangxue sat down to play music, while talking. Chui Luo is one of the 4 envoys of the Demon Emperor. Her status in the demon world is very special. If she dies in the human world, it will inevitably start a war between human and demon. Master is so annoying, why sect leader Su is still speaking to him? Tang Ruowei stared at Su Xiangxue for a long time and suddenly asked. It can't be, sect leader Su, do you like my master? Buzz. Su Xiangxue's voice was chaotic, and then she coughed. She covered her mouth and relieved herself, and said to Tang Ruowei. Why did Miss Tang say this? I can hardly imagine a woman paying so much for a man without personal affection. Tang Ruowei said. I'm a girl. I know that women's thoughts and actions are more introverted, not to mention that you are still a demonic cultivator, yet you have walked in this way with a righteous cultivator like master. Have you never been under pressure? I don't believe it. Hearing her words, Zui Yanfei next to her lowered her head in low self-esteem and murmured. Why did boys say I was more outgoing than them? Su Xiangxue and Tang Ruowei ignored Zui Yanfei's self-talking, and after thinking about it, Su Xiangxue said to Tang Ruowei, Mr. Bai has great grace for me, and of course I have to repay it. If he is not there, Su Xiangxue is just a free-to-use toilet for men, a furnace to gather male essence for my master. Now I can become the leader of the Kama Sutra sect because of Bai Qiuran's support. Such a great kindness, Su Xiangxue will naturally try her best to repay. I have never learned that there is a demonic cultivator who repays kindness in the Qingming Sword Sect cultural course. Tang Ruowei shook her head. What's more, even if it's repaying your gratitude, you have done too much. It's like letting him ask for anything he wants. Alas, what does little girl Ruowei care so much about your master's emotional life? Su Xiangxue avoided answering. I am his disciple, so naturally I care about it. Tang Ruowei supported his chin and replied, You think, if he really marries someone in the future, then I will need to call that person master wife. It's my vital interest, sect master Su. Su Xiangxue and Tang Ruowei stared at each other for a few seconds, then suddenly laughed out loud together, and Zui Yanfei next to them looked stunned. I couldn't think of a day when I became speechless in front of a junior. Su Xiangxue laughed. I like him, but does it matter? Even if we have the strength to stand together under the pressure of the two sides, but he is obvious for love. Moreover, Ruowei, do you want me to be your master wife? This decision can't be made by me, but my master. Tang Ruowei made suggestions to Su Xiangxue. But I think that if things are going on like this, Su sect master can only live alone for a lifetime. Oh? Is Ruowei girl trying to solve this predecessor's emotional problems? Su Xiangxue asked with a smile. So why are you talking about it? Because of your identity, you are a member of the Kama Sutra sect. Tang Ruowei said sharply. When it comes to the world's impression of the Kama Sutra sect, what do people think first? Slutty, seductive, and a ruthless demoness hid beneath the gorgeous appearance, who can sit on the ground and suck, cough, in short, I think except those who have special hobbies, no man in the world is willing to marry a woman of the Kama Sutra sect as his wife. Besides that. A blush suddenly appeared on Tang Ruowei's face. Her eyes flickered and asked intermittently, Sect leader Su, have you ever collected male essence? Oh, after saying so much, she is still a young child. Su Xiangxue smiled proudly, then said, Then it depends on your definition of collect male essence? If it says to suck a man's ahem, then I have actually collected, but there has never been any intercourse. What? Tang Ruowei was shy in her heart, but couldn't help being curious about this topic. Zui Yanfei on the side also secretly raised her ears and overheard the conversation between the two. After a pause, Tang Ruowei continued to ask, How did the Su sect master absorb the male essence? After looking at Su Xiangxue's face, she waved again. If it's a forbidden secret, I don't want to listen to that kind of thing. It's not a secret. In fact, this method was also modified by your master. Su Xiangxue smiled and said, My phantom charm, among all exercises of the Kama Sutra sect, specializes in the charm effect. In fact, for ordinary men, I only need a word or a look to get their essence. Even if no one comes to the store, just go around in the street and I can get countless male essence. Reminiscent of Su Xiangxue's ability that Bai Qiuran told her before, Tang Ruowei felt a little shocked. This was the scourge of the moving beauty. If she took off her veil and let the emperors of the 3 kingdoms of Tsung province see, it's enough to make the 3 kingdoms perish because of the war. One of the 3 big shots of the evil alliance, truly a terrifying character. Having settled down, Tang Ruowei encouraged Su to recognize the gap with them, and said to Su Xiangxue, So sect leader Su is still a virgin? Su Xiangxue thought about it, and nodded. Then do my master know this? Tang Ruowei asked again. Su Xiangxue thought hesitantly and shook his head. I never mentioned it with him. That's right. Tang Ruowei clapped. That's why when my master was with you, he would say those words. He just treated you like his good brother. A good buddy went out to find women, another helped to look out. For a pair of male friends, it's quite normal. Oh? Su Xiangxue thought for a while and asked angrily. You mean that guy has always treated me like a man? Yeah, think about it. When you and the master met, you should have already cultivated Kama Sutra sex exercise, right? Later, when you became the sect leader, you lived in pleasure realm. The first time my master took me to see you, at that day, what he told to the disciples at the door was, "Call out the strongest of you here," and then the disciples brought him to you. He probably still thinks that you are doing Kama Sutra sex part-time job in a chain store. Tang Ruowei guessed. He has a good relationship with you, but he doesn't want to develop in that area, so he can only treat you as a male brother. If you continue this way, I'm afraid you will be a best friend for a lifetime. Take this pill and cultivate for 2 months, your injuries will recover. Take this pill and cultivate for 2 months, your injuries will recover. Bai Qiuran put a bottle of pill into the hand of the golden core old man. Thank you, senior, for your reward. The old man bowed deeply. So I will. Bai Qiuran got up and wanted to go, but he saw the strange look on the faces of the disciples around him, so he asked, What? Do you have something to say? No. The old man hurriedly waved his hand. They're in pain, that's all. When he said this, it felt like he was deliberately satirized by Qiuran, and the old man sternly wished he could slap himself in regret. Qingming Sword Sect was a righteous sect, but in the cultivation world, the word righteous alone couldn't make a sect stand upright. Actually, I also know what you want to say. Bai Qiuran sat down again, tilting his legs, and said, It's nothing but my luck that I was born in the Qingming Sword Sect and be accepted as an apprentice by the immortals, so I don't understand the hard work of you small sections. That's what you're thinking, right? He looked around, observed the expressions of the disciples of Moon Worshipper Sect, and gave a sneer. Bullshit! At this moment, the disciples showed the expression of anger and daring, but Bai Qiuran ignored them and continued to say, To tell the truth, I'm a disciple of Qingming Taoist, and I'm more than 3,000 years old this year. When Qingming Sword Sect was founded, my master was invincible in the cultivation world. My childhood is better than you, I have to admit this. But when my master founded Qingming Sword Sect, he was already in the Great Accession stage. It took him only 100 years to ascend, leaving only the delicate exercises, countless materials, vast territories, and our disciples who are good for nothing. After a pause, Bai Qiuran's thoughts seemed to have returned to the past, and his eyes were a little lost. He continued, After Master's ascension, the strongest one in the sect was my eldest senior brother, who at that time was a mere mid-nascent soul stage. As for me, I could only fight an initial nascent soul stage cultivator if I risked my life. We're incompetent, yet we possessed the wealthiest patriarchal assets in the 9 provinces at that time. An innocent man is guilty of his wealth. Do you think that we were better than you then? After finishing this sentence, Bai Qiuran saw that the dissatisfied expression on the faces of the disciples. The betrayal of allies, the open attack of all parties, and the demonic cultivators who were suppressed by my master and did not dare to act rashly before his ascension, these people almost all placed their anger on the sect he founded. During the toughest days, we only had 20 to 30 disciples, and we were even forced to abandon the territory left by the founder. The sect wandered around in 9 provinces for 200 or 300 years. Bai Qiuran stood up and looked at the disciples of Moon Worshipper Sect and said, We still stand up in this situation, so I think that I who have experienced this situation are qualified to ask you, why can't you revitalize your sect again? But our situation is all because of you. Someone in the crowd whispered in a low voice. Shut up! The old man said cursedly. Who dares to talk back? Stand up for me! Bai Qiuran raised his hand to stop him, and his eyes accurately locked on the young man who spoke. Do you think that the Moon Worshipper Sect has fallen like this? Was it caused by me? Then I will tell you, if not because of me, you Moon Worshipper Sect, and several nearby sects, no one can survive. He looked at the young man and said, The 3 disciples in your sect were killed by my disciple. That's because you attacked her first, and before you started, she reminded you that I only passed her killing moves. Do you think that my disciple should stand on the spot and let you kill her? Your masters and elders, and half of the disciples were devoured by the big demon, also because you want to put the blame on those fox demons, kill them to get their inner core, and take control of the country. After all, this situation is the result of your sect leader's stupid plan. The disciple lowered his head and couldn't say a word. Upon seeing this, Baichuran shook his head and said to the old man, who was next to him, I assume you will take over the leadership. Next time you apply to join the Righteous Alliance, you will definitely not be able to pass it, but if you try harder, after hundreds of years you may have a chance. I will give you a suggestion. Cultivating hard, pay more attention to the things of the cultivation world, and if you are not strong enough, don't think about these crooked things like manipulating an empire behind the scenes. I'll keep that in mind. The golden core old man bowed his head deeply. I have had my say. You must do it for yourself. Baichuran walked away. Baichuran hurriedly ran back to the pleasure realm of the city near Dingjiang Mountain to pick up his apprentice, and another disciple of the heavenly army from the Devil's Cave. Baichuran hurriedly ran back to the pleasure realm of the city near Dingjiang Mountain to pick up his apprentice, and another disciple of the heavenly army from the Devil's Cave. As a result, when he got there, he witnessed Su Xiangxue was helping Zui Yanfei change her clothes. Zui Yanfei's armor was destroyed by 2 disciples of the Moon Worshipper sect in the previous battle. The clothes of the other disciples of the Kamasutra sect were too exposed for the girl, so Su Xiangxue asked Zui Yanfei to use her clothes, which happened to be close in height and size. 2 big-breast girls entered the room, while Tang Ruowei with a fake chest stood alone, looking at the door with longing. If I took a photo of you just now with an image recording stone, I might be able to win the prize of the Jade Towers photography competition. Baichuran walked to the disciple's side and teased her. I've thought about the name, it's called Longing. Master. Tang Ruowei ignored him, but asked rather distressedly. Why is this world so unfair? Why can't everyone born equal? Well, in fact, I think that Miss Su and Zui Yanfei's big rack make good sense. Baichuran thought about it and replied. Look, one of them has water spiritual root, the other has the bloodline of dragons that manipulates the wind and rain. They are all water attribute, and the ultimate embodiment of water in nature is the sea. It's the so-called all rivers run into the sea, the wide heart embraces all. A wide heart naturally comes up with a big chest, right? Then I am also Earth's spiritual root. Is the Earth's heart not worse than the sea? Tang Ruowei asked dissatisfiedly. No, the Earth should be loaded with virtue. Since it needs to carry objects, it must be flat. Baichuran replied. The so-called standing up without any desire is just unruly student. What do you kick me for? The two clashed for a while, and the door of the room was also pushed open. Su Xiangxue smiled and pushed Zui Yanfei, who was wearing a white dress, out of the room. The female of Heavenly Army put on a dress, and the graceful figure immediately showed amazing charm, but she still did not put down her high ponytail, so in addition to being beautiful, she still had a touch of heroism. Tang Ruowei bulged her mouth jealously, and Baichuran glanced back, then withdrew his gaze. How is it? Not bad? Su Xiangxue came to Baichuran and teased him. It's a beautiful child. Baichuran replied old-fashionedly. Humph! Su Xiangxue gave him a white look and asked. Your affairs are all done, so are you going back to Qingning's sword sect? Yes. Baichuran nodded and replied. I'll take Ruowei out tomorrow to see if I can find something for her to do, and then go back to the mountain. I still didn't get any clues to break through the foundation this time. It seems that my chance has not arrived yet. If you really want to find opportunities, go to places like the wilderness or the sea. Su Xiangxue thought about it. By the way, speaking of it, I heard that the previous sect master of the Heavenly Demon sect had successfully passed the tribulation in the wilderness and was about to return. What? Baichuran asked in surprise. He hasn't been slain by thunder? It's just luck, and he doesn't act like a demonic cultivator. Su Xiangxue said. He may become the first great elder in the evil alliance for 1,000 years. I can help you pay attention to it when the time comes. Well, it's up to you, thank you. Baichuran nodded politely. In addition, there is something for you. Su Xiangxue clapped his hands, and suddenly a disciple of the Hehuan sect walked in outside the courtyard. He was wearing proper clothes and captured the charm of his body. He held a wooden plate with some materials in his hands. These are the material of longevity pill. I think you might forget that you can still live for a few years when you go down the mountain. I am not as good as you at making a pill, so I will give you the materials. Bring it back and refine the pills yourself. Su Xiangxue rolled her eyes at Bai Qiuran. Don't die before I succeed in passing my tribulation, fool! Hiss. Bai Qiuran rubbed his arm. Why do you suddenly become so active? Brother, you won't make a move on me, will you? In the vast land of Gu Province, a world of mortal realm, there was the Qingming Sword Sect, one of the largest sects in this world. In the vast land of Gu Province, a world of mortal realm, there was the Qingming Sword Sect, one of the largest sects in this world. In this heaven and earth, the reputation of this sect was known to everyone. In this sect, not only every 100 of years, there would be a group of cultivator who reached deity transformation, physique integration, or even heavenly tribulating stage, but also that more than 3,000 years ago, there was a sect leader who broke through the heavenly tribulation and ascended to the immortal realm. Perhaps because of this ancient sect has survived several calamities for thousands of years and still stood. This year, it was the Qingming Sword Sect's disciple election, which was held every 20 years. People from several countries, who were eager to find the path of immortality, gathered in the Hanging Sword Town under the Qingming Mountain. But that night, a catastrophe quietly came to Qingming Sword Sect before they knew it. In the night, 2 third-generation disciples were yawning boringly, talking about the latest martial art trivia and beautiful teachers and sisters. By the way, they thought about tomorrow's disciple election ceremony, wondered whether they would meet their fated one among new disciples. But when they talked, a cloud of darkness quietly covered the Qingming Sword Sect, and silently clouded the bright moon. The first thing that struck was a strong sense of oppression, which made them felt like they were suffocating, and these disciples guarding the mountain gate almost felt the strangeness and anxiety almost instantly. Afterward, outside the protection array which covered the Qingming Mountain, the dark clouds filled the sky, and there were thunder snakes rolling in the dark clouds. During which a voice echoed as a thunderous rumbling sounded. Old Qingming! I come to revenge! The rumble of thunder was louder, the thunderbolt exploded, and the thunder snakes in the dark clouds gathered together and turned into a large thunder lance. It slammed onto the protection array of the Qingming sect, causing a violent shaking. Hurry up and report to the sect leader! The disciples fell to the ground with this violent tremor, but a second-generation disciple quickly reacted, hurriedly got up from the ground, shouted at the other disciples, and then rushed to the alarming bell. He used his fist like a hammer, hit the bell, made it ringing loudly. The array engraved on alarming bell made its sound echoed to all the Qingming Mountain. At this moment, everyone in the Qingming Sword Sect heard this sound, and the second generation of disciples quickly commanded their junior brothers and sisters, and younger generations to take refuge. The first-generation disciples drove their respective flying swords, followed the elders and the leader to rise into the sky. For a time, countless swords flying on the top of Qingming Mountain shuttled through, which was a beautiful scene. But the uninvited guest apparently did not have the patience to wait for the arrival of the sect leader and the elders. Seeing that the thunder lance was unbroken, the rolling black clouds under its control suddenly turned into a beast paw that covered the sky, and it suddenly swung toward Qingming Sword Sect. With a crisp sound, the protection array, which stood and protected Qingming Sword Sect for thousands of years, was crushed by the giant cloud claws like a soap bubble. The giant claws continued unabated and made a loud noise. From the mountain gate to the main hall, along with the whole mountain road, all of which were ruined. It was also at this time that a cyan sword light came directly from the cloud and turned into a cyan flying sword, which suddenly slammed in front of the giant cloud claw. A figure soared from the highest main peak of the Qingming Mountain and turned into a handsome figure in a white robe, standing in the air, watching the dark clouds, and coldly said, "Who is coming? Ignorant junior! Haven't you heard of this thunder demonic venerable's reputation?" The dark clouds kept rolling, seeming to be brewing with anger. Today I came to settle the odds with old Qing Ming. Get him out. Our founder, Qing Ming ancestor, had already ascended 3,000 years ago. The sect leader, Zhu Yunzi, frowned. If you are looking for him, you should go to the immortal realm, not to invade our Qing Ming sword sect. Ha 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 ha. A laugh sounded from among the clouds. Funny, ridiculous. Even that damned old Qing Ming can ascend? Okay, you are his disciples, so today I will destroy your sect, then I will seek revenge in the immortal realm. The dark clouds dispersed, and among the thunderclouds, a huge and immortal beast appeared, which had a wolf head and a horse body, followed by 3 hook-shaped long tails, entangled in black sullen thunder. Sure enough, it was the thunder beast sealed by the ancestor 3,000 years ago. Seeing its true body, Zhu Yunzi frowned. This thunder beast had the bloodline of a legendary beast in the immortal realm. It originally had the strength equivalent to the physique integration stage. After falling into the demonic path, its strength has soared. Now it could almost rival cultivators in the Great Ascension stage. He was very confident, but he also knew that he could not be the opponent of this thunder beast. The one who had the highest rank in the sect was the Great Elder, but he was currently in closed-door cultivation. Once he was disturbed, not mention his lifespan would be affected, his chi essence would recoil and seriously injured him, which wouldn't help this case. Thinking of this, Zhu Yunzi's thoughts moved and contacted one of his close disciples. Go to 7 Stars Peak and ask Uncle Ancestor to come and help. A disciple in red clothing, driving a flying sword, swiping behind the elders, passed on the disciple's words and quickly took the lead. Then he turned into a streamer and flew to the most remote peak of the Qingming mountain. Seeing his disciple flying away, Zhu Yunzi relaxed a little, then he raised his fingers, and the blue flying sword under his feet turned into a stream of rainbow flying around him. Want to destroy the Qingming sword sect? Then I, Zhu Yunzi, can only compete with you Thunder Demonic Venerable for a while. While Qingming's leader Zhu Yunzi stopped Thunder Demonic Venerable, the disciple in red clothing also drove the flying sword and quickly came to the 7 Stars Peak. In a hurry, he didn't have time to show etiquette, walking up the mountain from the mountain road, but fell directly into the small courtyard near the top of the mountain. As soon as he landed, he knelt directly on one knee and shouted. Qing Ming's sword sect was attacked, and the sect lender sent this disciple to ask the Uncle Ancestor to come out to the rescue. The sound echoed and rang through the whole mountain. After a moment, the door of a room in the yard was pushed open, and a lazy voice came out. I know. The sound of the steps sounded, and then a figure appeared in front of the disciple. He couldn't help his curiosity, looked up, and saw a handsome young man standing in front of himself. That man's skin was smooth like a baby, but he had white hair and white eyebrows like a 100-year-old man. He showed a lazy face, and he wasn't wearing any clothing representing the Qingming sect. Instead, he was wearing a tight-fitting cloth robe, stepping on a pair of cloud shoes under his feet, and an iron sword hung on his waist, which did not look like a cultivator but more like a warrior. But what shocked the disciple the most was the cultivation rank of the legendary Uncle Ancestor. She refining stage. The disciple in red clothes was startled. This was a level of power that could be reached by almost everyone, including martial artists under the mountain. With the strength of the Thunder Demonic Venerable, let alone a chi refining rookie, even if a nascent soul cultivator could only become its food. It's over, today is the doomsday for Qingming sect. The disciple in red muttered uncontrollably. Where is Zhu Yunzi now? The white-haired young man approached the disciple in red and asked him. But the disciple was clearly in an abnormal state, muttering some weird words. We are already dead, what the hell are you talking about? Have you been invaded by demon hearts? The Uncle Ancestor, in the chi refining stage, carrying his iron sword, came to the disciple, frowned and asked. Hey, I'm asking you, where is Zhu Yunzi? Is he on the main peak? No more, no more. The disciple in red showed the giving up expression on his face, raised his finger and pointed in the direction of the mountain gate. The sect leader is fighting with the demon in front of the mountain gate. Oh, I see. The white-haired and white-browed uncle ancestor nodded, and then squatted slightly, and the disciple in red clothes suddenly felt like he was in a terrifying storm. There was a loud bang, the whole 7 Stars Peak was shaken, the ground at his foot was broken. The disciples in red clothes were unstable and fell on his butts, looking at the figure of the uncle ancestor, who had already flown high into the clouds and jumped in the direction of the mountain gate. At the gate of Qingming Sword Sect, the disciples and elders looked up at the sky, seeing their leader fought with the invader in the clouds. In the sky, the lightning snake and sword shuttled endlessly, surging with huge energy. Even a bit of energy leaked out in the meantime could easily blow up a small hill. H. A few minutes later, a muffled noise suddenly heard in the clouds. A white figure fell from the clouds and hit the bell in front of the mountain gate, making a loud noise. The dust dispersed, and Zhu Yunzi slowly stood up from the ground, holding his fate's sword. Blood came out from his mouth. He looked up at the sky with a solemn look. Ha ha ha! Thousands of years later, Qingming's successors are nothing! With the thunder and lightning, Thunder Demonic Venerable descended from the sky, staring at Zhu Yunzi on the ground with the posture of a winner. You have been defeated! Old Qingming's sect is ruined here today! It raised its head, and a thunder light was emitted from the spiral unicorn on top of it, communicating with the thundercloud, brewing extremely terrible moves. But at this moment, a figure fell suddenly in the sky and kicked the thunder beast. Boom! The thunder beast was caught off guard and flew upside down, landed on a small hill bag outside Qingming Mountain, and crashed the whole mountain. Who? It roared angrily, rushing out of the dust, but saw a young man with white eyebrows and white hair, standing in front of Zhu Yunzi, looking at it with all his heart. My name is Bai Qiuran. The man smiled gently and said, Today, on behalf of my teacher Qingming Taoist, I will kill you. The thunder beast stared at the man carefully for a moment, then suddenly burst into laugh. Ha 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 ha! What are you talking about? This is the funniest joke I have ever heard in my life. Thunder Beast pointed at Bai Qiuran with his forefoot, and his tears and snot came out with a smile. A qi refining rookie dares to claim to be an apprentice of old Qingming. Ha ha, your insult to him is far beyond my imagination. Laughter gradually converged, and Thunder Beast said lowly, Go away and I can let you go. That won't work. Bai Qiuran smiled, but his forehead was cramped. Do you have any problem with the qi refining cultivators? What? Thunder Beast did not want to answer this boring question. When he saw Bai Qiuran, he opened his mouth and sprayed out a thunder, trying to smash Bai Qiuran along with Zhu Yunzi. The main goal of this thunderbolt was still Zhu Yunzi. In its thought, a small ant in the qi refining stage didn't worth for it to pay attention. It could erase countless ants like this with a sneeze. Sect leader! Seeing the thunder beast's attack, the disciples screamed, but Zhu Yunzi was calm, because he saw that Bai Qiuran in front of himself had pulled out his sword. His qi came out like the sea, lifted from Bai Qiuran's dantian, ignited his sword blade, covered his sword in a burning flame. This was the most commonly used basic skill that every cultivator could learn and use. Red flame slash! The fire broke into the sky, divided the light into two, and then cast away, just like a hot knife cutting butter, cut the unexpected beast into two halves along with the mountains behind it. The light converged, and Bai Qiuran threw away the sword whose blade was burned by red flames into molten iron, and then hummed coldly. Do you despise the qi refining stage cultivators? I'm very strong! Bai Qiuran, this was a name that only existed on the Qingming Sword Sect's oldest disciple list. Bai Qiuran, this was a name that only existed on the Qingming Sword Sect's oldest disciple list. 3,000 years ago, the demons of 9 provinces and 10 places were raging, and the civilians were mass scared. At that time, all the major sects suffered heavy damage from the war with the barbaric devils and had not recovered their vitality, so they could only barely protect themselves. In this chaotic world, a brilliant talented genius emerged, Qingming Taoist. With the sword in hand, he killed countless demons and returned peace to 9 provinces and 10 places. After that, he came to a mountain in Gu Province, adopted several talented and intelligent disciples, and founded Qingming Sword Sect. Bai Qiuran was one of the disciples who was adopted by Qingming Taoist. He was an orphan picked up by Qingming Taoist from the battlefield. Before Qingming Taoist found him, he wandered on the battlefield, stealing from the dead bodies to make a living. Because he was born with the heavenly level of wood spiritual root, he was favored by the Qingming Taoist and was taken to the mountain as his third disciple. Bai Qiuran's talents were very high, and his ingenuity was also the top among Qingming Taoist disciples. He began to practice at the age of 10. At the age of 12, he had broken the bottleneck of the physical condensate and condensed body, and formally entered the path of immortal cultivation. At that time, not only the entire Qingming sect, but also the whole cultivation world had high hopes for him, thinking that he would become the second Qingming Taoist. Bai Qiuran lived up to expectations, and he continued to work hard. At the age of 17, he became the youngest cultivator in history to reach the 10th layer of the Qi refining stage. His master Qingming Taoist was overjoyed, and even postponed his indoor cultivation to deal with the heavenly tribulation, personally came out to build a stove and refined a superb foundation build pill for Bai Qiuran. With the master's gift and the blessings of fellow Taoist seniors from the same sect and in the cultivation world, Bai Qiuran started his indoor cultivation to break through the foundation establishment stage. He took the pill, stagnated the dantian, let the spiritual power flow through the bones and veins in his body. Then after 3 days, he broke through to the 11th layer of the Qi refining stage. At that time, everyone didn't care about it and thought that it was Bai Qiuran's talents. Even the master Qingming Tao comforted Bai Qiuran, saying that, in ancient times there are cultivators who can reach 15th layer in Qi refining stage. They made great achievements later, so don't worry, everything is fine. 3,000 years passed, his master Qingming Taoist successfully ascended to the immortal realm. After his master ascended, his big senior brother took over the sect leader position, failed to pass the heavenly tribulation, and died. Today, even the youngest grandson of the 6th generation descendant of his youngest junior sister succeeded in advancing to the foundation establishment stage and learned to use the sword to ride the wind. And Bai Qiuran, as the most talented disciple at that time, successfully cultivated to the 66,664th layer of the Qi refining stage. To this day, even the little child whom he picked up when he traveled more than 700 years ago has become the great elder of Qingming Sword Sect. That guy was currently in an indoor cultivation, prepared to deal with the incoming heavenly tribulation. Yet, Bai Qiuran was still struggling to reach the foundation establishment stage. He never gave up. After Thunder Demonic Venerable was beheaded and killed by Bai Qiuran, Zhu Yunzi immediately responded, commanding the disciples to clean up the mess, and then led the elders together to greet Bai Qiuran at the main peak. This time, thank you so much for saving us. After arriving at the sect leader's courtyard on the main peak, Zhu Yunzi brought the elders into the chamber together. However, he did not attend the seat but left the main seat to Bai Qiuran instead. This Thunder Demonic Venerable is almost comparable to a great ascension stage cultivator. I am afraid that no one in the Righteous Alliance can defeat it alone. By that time, not only the Qingming sect will suffer a catastrophe, it will also be a disaster for the whole cultivation world. It's nothing. Bai Qiuran replied very gently. Among Master's disciples, I am the only one who has survived to this day, and it is naturally incumbent upon me to guard the legacy that left by him. Fortunately, there were no disciples injured this time, but it will take time for our sect to recover. The third elder Biyunzi said, Sect leader, what about tomorrow's disciple selection? Postponed for 3 months. After thinking about it, Zhu Yunzi said, The Thunder Beast destroyed the arrangement we made for the selection of disciples. Don't cloud it, leave it to you, and restore the arrangement as soon as possible. As for the candidates waiting in the Hanging Sword Town under the mountain, Qingming Sword Sect has invested to cover their room and board for the 3 months. There is also the reconstruction work of the sect protection array and the mountain gate, which must also be brought up. The 6th elder Qing Junzi said gently. When sect leader was fighting with the Thunder Beast, the leaked energy destroyed a lot of buildings, including 2 warehouses. The materials inside were estimated to have been damaged a lot and needed to be supplemented and repaired. Well, I'll leave this to you, Qin Yunzi. You will lead a generation of direct disciples to supervise this matter. The funds needed, I will let Lu Yunzi allocate it to you. Zhu Yunzi calmly commanded. Yes. Qin Yunzi and Lu Yunzi, 2 female elders of Qingning Sword Sect, resigned to deal with the matter after taking orders. In the next few minutes, Zhu Yunzi and the elders discussed the recent Zongmin affairs and arranged everything in an orderly manner. During this process, Bai Qiuran didn't say a word, just kept watching silently. When things came to a lag, he sighed. Time flies so fast. The innocent child who knew nothing at that time has now become the head of a sect. All rely on the care of Uncle Ancestor. Zhu Yunzi said to Bai Qiuran very sincerely. When he was elected as the next sect leader position, he has encountered the assassination of evil sects, or even other sects in the Righteous Alliance. Facing these dangers, Bai Qiuran has saved his life many times. I'm relieved to see you there. Bai Qiuran laughed. I'll go down the mountain tomorrow. Why do Uncle Ancestor have to go down the mountain? Zhu Yunzi said. The selection ceremony for the Qingning sect is coming soon. Now that the Thunder Beast is attacking, the other sects must have received news by now. If Uncle Ancestor isn't present, maybe they will have other ideas. What are you afraid of? Bai Qiuran asked him. The Righteous Alliance has 5 major sects, among the other 4 sect leaders, who can be a match for you. This? Zhu Yunzi thought about it. I think maybe probably if I'm unlucky. For the leader of 4 evil sects, who can't you beat? Bai Qiuran asked again. Okay. Zhu Yunzi hesitated. I think I should be better. Then why do you're afraid? Bai Qiuran waved his hand. That's it, I don't believe it. You are the head of the elders and the elders of the divine stage, can't you choose the disciples? It seems like that. Zhu Yunzi nodded, but asked again. Why is Uncle Ancestor suddenly going down the mountain? Since you moved to 7 Stars Peak, you haven't been down Qingning Mountain for hundreds of years. I'll do it recently. It feels like I'm about to break through. Speaking of this topic, Bai Qiuran's face showed a look of anticipation. I have a feeling that I will be able to successfully advance to the foundation establishment stage this time, but my super extreme incredible foundation build pill still lacked a few medicinal materials, so I need to go down the mountain to find it. Come on, Uncle Ancestor. Zhu Yunzi laughed. You said the same thing last time. Remember the hen you brought back 200 years ago? It already reached the golden core stage. What about you? Still in the Qi refining stage, just broke through more than 10 layers. Do you know? Before the Great Elder began his indoor cultivation, he took my hand and smelt a tear, saying that the day he was out of his indoor cultivation, he's either dead or ascend. As a result, he might not be able to see the day when Uncle Ancestor successfully advances to the foundation establishment stage. Bai Qiuran clenched his fists. His face was as black as the bottom of the pot. Less nonsense! Regardless of the presence of several elders, he grabbed the collar of Zhu Yunzi. I'm going down the mountain, give me some money! Oh yes, also the heavenly heart grass. Uncle Ancestor. Zhu Yunzi's expression was changed. About the money, of course we should prepare for you, the heavenly heart grass? It's something extremely hard to find even for us. There is no such thing in Qingning Sword Sect storage. Where can I find? I know that when you went down the mountain 30 years ago, you encountered one. Your kid, who are you trying to lie to? Bai Qiuran pointed to Zhu Yunzi. Besides, you don't practice poison path. If you want this thing to be useful, you should give it to me. I'm going to sell it at the next auction of the Righteous Alliance. Zhu Yunzi still resigned. Furthermore, you may not be able to advance to the foundation establishment stage, and it will be wasted in the end. No more nonsense, do you give me or not? Bai Qiuran asked. Zhu Yunzi hesitated, then shook his head. Okay, that's fine. Bai Qiuran walked outwards and murmured in his mouth. I went to Little Lu to get the money. By the way, maybe I'll accidentally reveal to her that 300 years ago, You and little Xian, little Fu, little Bai sneaked into Moonlight Lake to peep her and little Qing's bathing. The second elder, the fourth elder, and the fifth elder jumped out of their seat together. Sect leader! The second elder Xian Yunzi stepped forward first. Senior brother, uncle ancestor has guarded Qin Ming's sword sect for more than 3,000 years, and now it's just a little grass. Why wouldn't you give it to him? Exactly. The fourth elder Fu Yunzi followed. Besides that, uncle ancestor was our elders. What the elders wanted, as a disciple, we should go all out to find out for him. That is called our filial piety. You too. Zhu Yunzi's face was full of cold expression. Sect leader, I think second senior brother and fourth senior brother are speaking the truth. The fifth elder Bai Yunzi said. Moreover, it was you who took the lead at that time. If junior sister Lu and junior sister Qing go berserk, in the end you'll also suffer the most. Zhu Yunzi looked at the three companions who had no struggle, betrayed the revolution, and immediately surrendered to the evil force, then looked at the evil force who was leaning against the door with a smile. He finally sighed. Uncle ancestor, you're right. I am your great disciple, it's my duty. The Qingming sect leader tried his best to look calm. What do you want? You just need to say one word, I will have men bring it to your 7 stars peak. You don't have to collect things in person. After getting what he wanted, Baichuran left the main peak of Qingming Mountain with great joy and returned to the 7 stars peak where he lived. After getting what he wanted, Baichuran left the main peak of Qingming Mountain with great joy and returned to the 7 stars peak where he lived. However, during the period when Baichuran left, there seemed to be uninvited guests in the courtyard. When he came to the gate, Baichuran felt an unpleasant, cold, and gloomy atmosphere emanating from his courtyard. He stopped for a moment, then opened the gate without fear, walked into his bedroom, and saw the uninvited guest standing in front of his bed. It really is you, Xueling. Looking at the young man wearing a white robe and blue complexion, Baichuran sighed. Why do you come here? Baichuran. The young man named Xueling looked at him with an emotionless face. Your life is coming to an end. Baichuran's face cooled down, and the two looked at each other in silence. After a moment, he scratched his white hair a little irritably, and replied, Well, how does this day come again so quick? All right, I know, you can go back. But Xueling did not leave, instead stayed in place and continued, It's been over 3,000 years, you should give up. Give up what? Baichuran insisted. Cultivators should persevere, they're brave and keep enterprising. Although you are a soul taker of the underworld, how do you keep thinking of persuading people to give up their lives? That's right, Xueling was one of the soul takers who was responsible for restraining the soul of the dead and bringing them to the underworld. As a ghost who brought death to the human world and maintains the order of the heavens and the earth, unless Xueling himself was willing, living beings could not see him, including cultivators who have set foot on the path of immortality. In the whole Qingming sword sect, except for Baichuran who was dying and the great elder who was about to pass the heavenly tribulation, even Zhu Yunzi couldn't feel Xueling's existence. As a soul taker, Xueling and Baichuran could be regarded as old acquaintances. Although Baichuran has unrivaled strength, could even kill a thunder beat with a sword, but he was still a cultivator during the qi refining stage. Cultivators in the qi refining stage, no matter how strong, always had many insurmountable obstacles, and lifespan was one of the most important ones. A cultivator in the qi refining stage could live for a maximum of 300 or 400 years. At this age, if he couldn't successfully, then his physical body would be dead and his soul would be detained. Soul Taker would come to take their soul and send to the wheel of reincarnation. However, Baichuran was one of the most distinctive. First, the endless qi in his body guaranteed that his physical body was stronger than the physical body of an ordinary immortal, and would never decay. Second, he had the heavenly level of wood spiritual root, which not only increased his speed of cultivating, but also ensured that the body fully absorbs the medicine, and could use the pill with an unlimited number of uses. Among the pills, there was one called longevity pill. Every time a cultivator consumed one, he or she could increase the lifetime by 5 years. However, Because of its medicinal properties, the number of uses was limited, so it's generally used by those who are about to run out of lifespan to make a final struggle. But Baichuran did not have this restriction, so he relied on longevity pill to extend his lifespan to 1,000 years. The first meeting between Baichuran and Xueling was more than 2,000 years ago, when Baichuran's lifespan was about to exhaust the first time. At that time, Baichuran was traveling and was trapped in the palace of an immortal. Among the relics left, it's impossible to refine the longevity pill, so Xueling, a young ghost who had just become a soul taker, came to take his soul. At that time, Baichuran also felt that he was going to make a breakthrough. With the dream of advancing to the foundation establishment stage, he struggled to resist, not only breaking the chain of restraining soul but also beating Xueling in turn. Xueling was also stubborn as a mule, so he kept chasing Baichuran relentlessly for a few months. Only after the latter refined and ate another longevity pill, he then returned to the underworld with unwillingness. The two ended up being rivals like this. For more than 2,000 years, whenever Baichuran's lifespan was about to run out, Xueling would come out to trouble him. The fighting between the two once caused the underworld and even the immortal realm to pay close attention. Until hundreds of years ago, when the underworld dispatched a large number of soul takers and held judges to cooperate with Xueling to arrest Baichuran, but still ended up in failure. Thus Xueling slowly gave up his intention to use force to detain Baichuran's soul. Now Xueling has basically become Baichuran's lifespan alarm clock. Whenever his lifespan was about to run out, the soul taker would come to remind him that it's time to refine more longevity pill. Why are you so stubborn about it? Your sea of qi is infinitely many times that of ordinary people. The foundation establishment stage requires the concentration of qi, compresses qi into qi essence. With the amount of qi in your body, how can you compress? Xueling said coldly. Give up, there is no medicine with such a strength in the world. You should obediently go back to the underworld with me. The immortal realm has given an order. As soon as you die, he will seal you as the emperor of the underworld and lead the 10 nether kings. No! Baichuran decisively refused. I just want to advance to the foundation establishment stage. Well, you know the old rules anyway. Xueling squinted at him. If the time comes and you don't find a way to extend your life, I will come to capture you. Go, go, go. Baichuran waved his hand impatiently. Do you have so much free time to waste here? Seeing Baichuran's expression, Xueling didn't intend to talk with him anymore. He turned around and walked to one side of the room. Then the figure faded gradually and disappeared into the corner of the room. Baichuran fell to his bed all of a sudden, resting his head with his arms, watching the top of the mosquito net. His life has continued like this since his master Qingming Taoist descended. As a cultivator in the qi refining stage, he has been fighting the bottleneck of foundation establishment stage every year for 3,000 years. Every year was his last year to live, and every year he must rely on longevity pill to continue to live. As time passed, those who had high hopes for him, some ascended, some failed to pass the heavenly tribulation, some died in the battle. Those who wanted to harm him and the Qingming sect were all dead, none was spared. And this state of life has also left him unable to enjoy the happiness that cultivators could enjoy in their long life. He had no acquaintances and reputations. He watched his first love become the wife of his senior brother, being alone for 3,000 years. He took off the red robes of disciples, rejected becoming the leader of Qingming sword sect, and came to this most remote peak alone, living alone. He has been refined qi for 3,000 years, only for advancing to the foundation establishment stage one day. Ah, really troublesome. Impatiently scratching his waist, Baichuran was lying on the bed, muttering. It seems that when going down the mountain this time, I also have to find the materials for longevity pill. It's a good day, a long journey with song and wine. It's a good day, a long journey with song and wine. Every time he went down the mountain, Baichuran felt a lot more relaxed. Although he was already aloof, he always felt a bit above Qingming sword sect. Now he left the sect and stayed away from the mountain. Baichuran was finally able to be a pure Baichuran, not Bai Qiuran, the ancestor of Qingming sword sect. There were 10 kingdoms in the Gu province, and the kingdom which the Qingming mountain located was called Shangshuan. All the materials Bai Qiuran Yue is looking for this time could be found in the territory of the Shangshuan kingdom. After going down from Qingming mountain, Bai Qiuran bypassed the Hanging Sword town and then walked towards the area controlled by the royal family of the Shangshuan kingdom. Although he could not ride the sword by his own strength, Bai Qiuran could still achieve the same speed as sword flight, but he did not like that. For 3,000 years, Bai Qiuran has already lost the feeling of hurriedness or impatience to complete the task. This time he went down the mountain not only as a trip to collect materials but also as a journey. So instead of rushing to get on the road, he went to the nearest town under Qingming mountain, bought a horse, and then leisurely traveled along the official road of Shangshuan kingdom. But after a short walk, Bai Qiuran was blocked on the road by a group of bad-looking gangsters. "Excuse me." Facing this group, he quickly analyzed and knew their strengths were about the middle of the forging stage. The strongest was the man in the late forging stage. He asked with a gentle smile, "Why do you stop me here? Is there any request?" "Request?" Several big men surrounded him in groups, and the one headed out showed the big sword with the copper ring in his hand and licked his tongue greedily. "That is, when we see you, we think you are the son of a noble family, thus we want to borrow some money." "Is this robbing?" Bai Qiuran said with a smile. "Everyone, if I remember correctly, this is the official way of Shangshuan kingdom." "What about official ways?" Those robbers laughed. "The emperor is now in critical condition. The soldiers stationed in this official way have long been transferred. If you don't give money to us, even the immortal can't save you today." Does the situation in the Shangshuan kingdom become so serious nowadays? Looking at the bandits who were laughing around, Bai Qiuran thought silently in his heart. He remembered that when he came down the mountain hundreds of years ago, Shangshuan kingdom was still a peaceful country, and the people lived in harmony. The Gu province and nearby areas were all protected by the Qingming sect, and there was no sect that would dare to come to attack the Qingming sect. The local breeds of demons and monsters were generally dealt with by the Qingming sect disciples who traveled down the mountain, so generally, there were only 2 reasons that could make Gu province fall into chaos: mutual wars between the 10 nations, or chaos caused by battles for power among nobles. Things like this are generally ignored by Qingming sword sect. After all, as a cultivation sect, Qingming sword sect was still seeking the ascension, not the power of the mortal world. The changing of the rulers was something that the Qingming sect did not need to pay attention to, and tried their best not to pay attention to it. Cultivators do not involve the struggle of mortal forces. This was the teaching of Qingming Taoists to Bai Qiuran and others, which he passed down all along. However, encountering robbers and thieves on the road was a different matter. The battle between the powers of Shangshuan's nobles was their own business, but these bandits would harm every innocent who passes this road. Thus, when encountering such people, disciples of Qingming sword sect have always done their best. Thinking of this, Bai Qiuran still kept a smile on his face, but his right hand quietly held the sword handle around his waist, and his thumb gently pushed out a blade. The blade has not come out the scabbard, yet everyone felt chill. Seeing Bai Qiuran's movements, the gangsters realized his intention of resisting, so they also raised the weapon in their hands. But at this moment, someone suddenly sounded, "Stop it!" A figure flew over from behind, kicked the closest bandit, then landed on the ground. The bandits were frightened apart, and they were alert to Bai Qiuran and the coming person, while Bai Qiuran looked at the person who came. That was a teenager about 15 to 16 years old, with fair skin, a handsome face, and black hair. He had a man's hair bun behind his head and tied it with a white square scarf. He was wearing a white knight's gown embroidered with a flowing cloud pattern, holding a 3-foot sword in his hand, looked like the child of a noble family. At this moment, this little boy was stood right in front of Bai Qiuran with a straight sword, scolding the bandits. "In the daylight, even dare to rob on the official road, you really don't put Shangshuan's law in your eyes." "Law?" The bandits glanced at each other, and then laughed at the same time. "Fuck the law! Whoever wants to put that useless code in the eyes, The only true thing is that filling the stomach. Brothers go together. This is also a fat sheep. Boss, you have to show mercy later. One gangster licked his tongue. We haven't vented our sexual desire for a few days. This boy is a pretty boy. I have an idea. Go to hell. The head bandit kicked him. Do you want to do it with a male? After we have grabbed the money, won't it better that we find some prostitutes in the city? But we are wanted criminals, the gangster said grievously. There are no soldiers on the official road, but the city is different. We will be killed the moment we enter. The head bandit thought for a while, realizing this was the truth, so he looked at Baichuran. Okay. This white-haired boy looks pretty good too. We'll capture both of them. Hearing the conversation of these bandits, the fledgling boy over there was flushed with anger, and although Baichuran was still laughing, there was a little killing intention in his smile. 3,000 years of cultivation gave him a good temper, but it didn't mean that he wouldn't be angry. Shameless bandit! However, the boy seemed to be more excited than him. As soon as the gangsters were ready to take action, he immediately pulled out his long sword and started off first. A bit of chi emanated from his body, a little golden light appeared on his blade, and then he waved at these bandits with that golden sword, cut off the head of the gangster who had just made this suggestion. Oh, it turned out to be a fellow Taoist in the chi refining stage. Baichuran thought. Although the chi refining stage has been counted as officially entering the path of cultivation, it did not mean that there was no chi refining stage cultivator in the mortal world. In the big families, the royal family, or the martial arts, there were a few one reached this stage. In this stage, they could extract the chi from the body to attack the opponent, or formed a layer of defense on the body surface, which was 10 times stronger than the peak of the forging stage. This was the real power of the chi refining stage. Baichuran, whose chi could split the mountains and the sea, was already a different kind of monster. Blood splattered, and the headless corpse fell on the onslaught path. When they saw the golden sword, the gangsters' expressions changed greatly. Chi? This is a grand master in martial arts! The head gangster shouted and ran towards the mountain forest without looking back. Run! Several gangsters threw away their weapons and crying, ran to the forest next to them. The young boy stood in place and looked at them with a cold face, but did not intend to continue to pursue. However, he didn't plan to kill them all, but Baichuran planned to kill them all. The next scene stunned the noble boy. A dash of white rainbows suddenly crossed, and within a semicircular range of tens of meters from the mountain road, all the trees appeared a sword mark on the same horizontal line. With a sound of crackling, no matter how thick they were, all the trees broke into two along the sword mark, then fell down. Along with the trees, the gangsters were also swept across the waist by the sword, and divided into two from there. After all the gangsters died, Baichuran returned his sword to the sheath. After all the gangsters died, Baichuran returned his sword to the sheath. Bro, thank for your help. What is your name? The noble boy frowned, instead of answering Baichuran's words, but asked. They have all fled. Why do you have to kill them all? Why can't you be forgiving? Now look at them, do you really think they understand the principle of being forgiving? Baichuran shook his head and responded with a smile. If you and I let them go today, tomorrow or the day after tomorrow, they will forget today's fears, pick up weapons, continue to harm others, and the people who meet him may not be strong like you and me. What do you think will happen? Killing them all, it is to save more innocent lives. The boy bit his lip and remained silent. Seeing that, Baichuran continued to ask. Bro, haven't you told me your name? What's the use of knowing my name? The boy put his sword back and said, We just meet by chance. I see the unevenness and try to help. Goodbye. No, we meet by destiny, Baichuran said with a smile. You came to help, and it is reasonable for me to treat you a drink. With your strength, you don't need my help at all. You owe me nothing. The boy refused. You're going to invite me to drink, and I'm ashamed of it. No, strength is not important to me. What matters is the courage and chivalry that make you willing to stand out when seeing an unevenness. Baichuran insisted. I'm respecting you, Yet you didn't want to tell me your name, it was too disappointing. The noble boy showed hesitation. After a moment, he gritted his teeth and replied, My name is Tang Wei. Hi, Brother Tang. Baichuran took back his own horse that had run aside because of the fright. Brother Tang, do you know where there is a restaurant nearby? I'm in a very good mood today. I must invite you for a drink. 2 hours later, Baichuran sat in the opposite of Tang Wei in a restaurant beside the official road of Shangshuan Kingdom. On the table were a bottle of wine, 2 pounds of cooked beef, and 2 sautéed side dishes. Come, Brother Tang, drink a cup. Baichuran raised his cup and said enthusiastically to Tang Wei. What? Tang Wei reluctantly held up his cup, touched Baichuran's, and then took a sip. The liquid in the throat burned his esophagus like a blaze. Tang Wei stretched his face, turned his head, and then spat out his tongue quietly in a spot that Baichuran couldn't see. Brother Tang, is this your first time to go out? Seeing Tang Wei's unnatural reaction, Baichuran said with a smile. You don't have to drink too much. The most important thing about drinking is mood. Being drunk is not only a mistake, but it is also bad for your body. It's not like what a person who is trying to force people to drink will say. Tang Wei sighed and put down the wine cup in his hand. Sorry, this is my habit, mainly because I really want to make friends with Brother Tang. Baichuran said with a smile. Don't you think it would be a great pleasure to meet someone who is interested in you and have a drink together? It depends on the time and the occasion. Tang Wei sighed and said, I'm on my way and I have work to do. I do too, Baichuran said. But since some time ago, I have understood a fact. I don't have to be so anxious on the road of life. Enjoy the good things on the side of the road, that is the meaning of life. I used to focus too much on one thing and ignored a lot of things in life. So even if I have a life or death urgent now, I'm not in a hurry. After that, he added another sentence in his heart, anyway, the soul taker can't beat me. Tang Wei muttered. Urgent? I think you're pretty laid back. Then you say that you are in an urgent situation. Where are you going? Tell me about it. I mainly came out to pick some herbs this time. I need to eat it myself. Baichuran picked the cooked beef with chopsticks and then replied. In terms of location, I remember it was in the middle of the Mang Mountain in the middle of the Shangshuan Kingdom. Well, I don't know if that place is still called by that name. You want to go to Mang Mountain? Hearing Baichuran's words, Tang Wei looked at him very unexpectedly. Yes, is there anything wrong? Baichuran asked. No, it's just that there have been demons in that mountain recently, devouring living people. I heard that many people nearby have already been eaten by it, and even martial art masters have been killed and injured a lot. Tang Wei paused and said, Actually, my destination is also there. That's a coincidence. Baichuran laughed. But I heard that Gu Province is the place where the Qingming Sword sect is located. If there are demons on a rampage, why don't you go to the Qingming Sword sect? I think they should be happy to help and kill the demons. Qingming Sword sect, huh? Speaking of this topic, Tang Wei's face suddenly became very unsightly. He hummed coldly. They will, but it is just the merits of earning the good karma, not that cultivators are good. It seems Brother Tang has a lot of opinions on Qingming Sword sect. Baichuran quietly said. These cultivators collect many offerings from countries of Gu Province every year. They say to protect the world and the righteous path. But now people of Shangshuan Kingdom are living in misery. Where are they? Tang Wei said angrily. The modus operandi of Qingming Sword sect is not to interfere in the internal affairs of the mortal world. I have come along and heard some news. The situation in the Shangshuan Kingdom today is caused by the inaction of the senior officials. Therefore, Qingming Sword sect's action is reasonable, Baichuran said. But if someone goes up the mountain and asks the disciples of Qingming Sword sect to go down the mountain to protect the safety of the people, I believe they will agree. Do not interfere in the internal affairs of the mortal world? Tang Wei sneered. Did you know? The current spiritual advisor of the Shangshuan Kingdom is from the Qingming Sword sect. He told the emperor and princes many rumors about immortality and make them not care about people's livelihood. Is that so? Baichuran frowned. He didn't want to care about the internal affairs of Shangshuan Kingdom at first, but if it really involved Qingning Sword Sect, then as an ancestor, he could not turn a blind eye. Whether there was a scum among Qingning's disciples, or someone disguised to use Qingning Sword Sect's name, he must deal with this and not let the sect created by his teacher be ashamed. After making up his mind, he decided that after collecting the medicinal herbs, he would go to the Shangshuan Kingdom's capital to take a look. Bai Qiuran skipped this unpleasant topic and said, "Brother Tang, since your destination is also a Mang Mountain, then I have a proposal. On this journey, we might as well go together, so we can take care of each other. What do you think?" On the official road of the Shangshuan Kingdom, two people rushed side by side. On the official road of the Shangshuan Kingdom, two people rushed side by side. The former person may be not an expert on equestrianism, but everyone could see that he has received specialized equestrian training and could control the horse skillfully. The latter man seemed a bit awkward. He seemed very uncomfortable with horseback. He didn't know how to use horse ropes to steer the horses. He didn't dare to let the horses run up, thus he only dared to let it walk slowly. Everyone could see that he's a novice on horseback. "Brother Tang!" Bai Qiuran, who was falling behind, shouted, "Please wait for me." Right before the night fell, the two entered the small town next to Mang Mountain. Tang Wei found a vacant inn in the town, and the two settled for the time being. Although not feeling any tiredness at all, Bai Qiuran immediately ordered a table with good wine and dishes to reward his stomach, while Tang Wei ran to the innkeeper and asked him about the demon. "The demons of the Mang Mountain?" Speaking of this, the shopkeeper of this inn immediately frowned. "Ah, it has really been very fierce recently. Many people in several villages and towns nearby have been killed. I heard that the demon acted very fast. When it attacked people, others could only see a dark shadow, and people who were attacked were dead without corpses. It was not afraid of people at all. They acted during both the day and night. There were many martial artists who went to kill the demons, but they did not return. We did not know when it will come to our town to catch people. I hope those immortals who live on the mountain can manage it." "No need for them." Tang Wei raised an eyebrow and said, "We mortals must rely on ourselves. Do you want to get rid of the demon?" The shopkeeper pointed to several tables in the inn, and on those tables were some people who looked like martial artists. "Then I suggest that you can discuss with those experts. With the wealth and the reputation of being heroes who killed the demon, I think they should agree to go together with you. The demon is very dangerous, so don't kill yourself. Haven't the government here issued a reward order for demons?" Tang Wei raised an eyebrow and asked. "Of course not. Now that the emperor is obsessed with immortality, he has no care about the lives and deaths of grassroots like us." The shopkeeper turned the ledger and lowered his head and said, "The government's money now has to be supplied to the alchemy of the spiritual advisor. They haven't had time to squeeze the people. Where would they be willing to take out the money to ask people to remove demons? We haven't counted on the government of Shangshuan Kingdom since long ago." Tang Wei returned to the table in silence. Bai Qiuran, who was pouring wine, saw his face and asked, "What's wrong? Brother Tang, your face doesn't look very good. Is that demon terrible?" "It's amazing." Tang Wei returned to God and did not tell him anything about the government, but said, "Bai Qiuran, after taking you to the horse market tomorrow to sell the horse, let's go our separate ways." "Oh?" Bai Qiuran put down the jug and asked, "Why?" "I'm going to Mang Mountain too. Because I'm going to deal with my own business." Tang Wei replied, "Bai Qiuran, listen to my advice. After all, you just go to Mang Mountain to collect the medicine. After you have finished the medicine, you should go away. The demon in the mountain is also a very dangerous thing, even for a martial arts master like us. Don't go if you still want to live. Since Brother Tang insists so be it." Bai Qiuran was not an inflexible man, he just wanted to have a companion along the way. Since the other party made it clear that he wanted him to leave, of course, he wouldn't insist on it. "Brother Tang." He raised his glass and said to Tang Wei, "I'm very happy to know you as a friend. If there is fate, hope I can see you again." The next morning, after Tang Wei took Bai Qiuran to the horse market to sell the horses, the two officially broke up. Tang Wei stayed in the town and didn't know what to do, but Bai Qiuran took a leisurely mood as if he had stepped into the now crisis-ridden Mang Mountain. On the mountains, not only the demons were now raging, but also many ferocious beasts. The Mang Mountain was a place where spiritual energy gathers, and there are many materials needed for pill refinement. Therefore, the beasts here were stronger than in other places. Among them, there were even spirit beasts that had intelligence and could use simple spells. Of course, these things were no threat to Bai Qiuran. Although he was very embarrassed about his level, in 3,000 years, he has gone through all the most dangerous places, which were much more than this. He came here just to look for some herbs that were not commonly used in Foundation Build Pill. Bai Qiuran's super extreme incredible Foundation Build Pill has long been separated from the standard Foundation Build Pill. In order to cope with his special situation, he has added many private goods to Foundation Build Pill, which has become unrecognizable. If a normal qi refining cultivator used it to make a breakthrough, it's estimated that he would not be able to bear the medicine's power and would die directly. And now he was approaching the breakthrough again. In his recipe, there were just a few medicinal materials that, although very rare, were not very high level and were not widely used. Sometimes cultivators ignored them even when they see them, so there was no stored one in the warehouse of Qingning Sword Sect, thus Bai Qiuran had to go down the mountain to pick it up. After half a day's journey, he finally entered the range of Mang Mountain. Bai Qiuran immediately released his soul awareness and looked for the needed medicinal herbs. Tang Wei, who was riding in front of him, looked helpless, making the horses who sat down slow down and went together with Bai Qiuran. "Seeing you go out with a horse, I thought you can ride," Tang Wei said helplessly. "I didn't expect you to be so strong yet couldn't even ride a horse." I used to travel by walking." Bai Qiuran smiled with a stunning smile. "Then why do you buy a horse?" Tang Wei asked. "Having too much money to spend?" "I'm just in a good mood, so I bought a horse." Bai Qiuran laughed. "Any questions?" "I'm starting to regret the promise to go with you." Tang Wei sighed. "It should have taken only 3 days to get there, but now it took us 5 days. Ha!" Bai Qiuran also said a little embarrassedly. "Sorry, as I get older, my character becomes more procrastinated. We should be able to go to the small town in front of Mang Mountain tonight. When you get there, take the horse to the market and sell it," Tang Wei said. "Anyway, you can't ride it. With your cultivation level, you might go faster by walking." When he was at a roadside restaurant, Bai Qiuran proposed to travel Tang Wei. Perhaps because of Bai Qiuran's superior compared to martial artists, Tang Wei agreed to his suggestion. For 5 days since then, the two have been traveling together. Tang Wei was responsible for guiding the way, and Bai Qiuran was totally in a playing mentality. The two went all the way to the hinterland. After 5 days, they finally came to the vicinity of the Mang Mountain. Although he hasn't advanced to the Foundation establishment stage yet, after 3,000 years of continuous training, Bai Qiuran's soul awareness was very powerful. Although he hasn't advanced to the Foundation establishment stage yet, after 3,000 years of continuous training, Bai Qiuran's soul awareness was very powerful. His soul awareness has even reached a level where he could form the physicalized attack with his mind, which was even more terrifying than the average immortal. Standing in the Mang Mountain, his soul awareness spread out in all directions, and he easily found the location of the medicinal herbs he needed from the vast Mang Mountain. In the meantime, he even encountered a huge black snake that was about to turn into a demon in a mountain stream. This man-eating snake wanted to swallow him, so it was chopped to death by his palm. By the way, he got a demon core in good condition, ready to be added to the pill to improve its effectiveness. Well, this is the last herb. On a cliff, Bai Qiuran picked a wonderful herb like a human heart from the rock wall, put it in his own storage bag, and then fell to the ground. Now the materials for my Foundation Build Pill are complete. It's the time to find the materials for Longevity Pill. In Bai Qiuran's mind, Xue Ling's dead face appeared, and his original good mood became a bit gloomy. Well, it's really unpleasant. Why do other people live for 3,000 years? They can jump out of the limit of the underworld and live forever and carefree. But I lived for 3,000 years, yet I was cursed every year by the Soul Taker. The world is really unfair. After all, but in order to continue his own dreams of advancing to the Foundation establishment stage, longevity pills still needed to be refined. Although the underworld couldn't take his soul, they were still an important part of maintaining the normal operation of the heaven and earth order. His mentor Qiming Taoist was still in the immortal realm. If Baichuran's wanton behavior affects the future of the Qiming Taoist in the immortal realm, it would be bad. Thinking of this, Baichuran didn't delay anymore. He packed his storage bags and left the cliff, but he still had a place to go before leaving the Mang Mountain. As a member of the Qiming Sword sect, if there were demons who harmed people, and no matter how others evaluate them, Baichuran couldn't let it go. Before scanning the mountain with soul awareness, he also found the demon's nest. Before leaving, Baichuran decided to take a trip and kill the demon, so that it would not be able to continue to devour people anymore. Moreover, just as the nest was placed in an area with heavy negative energy, there were a few herbs of refining longevity pill grew there, so he could reach two purposes with one effort. The area of the Mang Mountain was hundreds of miles in radius. According to Baichuran's soul awareness scan, the demon was hiding more than 100 miles away. In the past few days, while taking the herb leisurely, he has also monitored the movement of the demon with his soul awareness from time to time. If it went out to hurt people, Baichuran decided to catch up with it and kill it before it could harm more people. But after a few days of observation, he found something strange. The demon's hiding place was full of resentment ki and blood ki, and it also has many of these ki on its body. At the first glance, it's true that many people have been eaten by the demon, but its frequency of eating did not seem to be as often as the rumors he heard before. When Baichuran first found it with soul awareness, the demon seemed to have just hunted and was on the way back to its nest, but these days it has stayed in the nest. It looked like that before completely digesting the prey. It did not go out to attack people anymore, which was fundamentally different from the seemingly endless gluttony described in rumors. Baichuran felt that there was still something tricky behind this, but he was not in a hurry. After he killed the demon, when he went out, he just needed to ask if there was any demon attack in the nearby villages and towns, and the truth would be revealed. Thinking of this, Baichuran no longer lingered on the road. His figure turned into a shadow, and the distance of more than 100 miles soon arrived, near the demon's lair. Here was a sparse woodland. The grass and trees in the forest have been eroded by resentment ki, and most of them have died. The remaining ones have all become ghostly and eccentric. Not far from the dead forest was a bare mountain peak with a strange rock formation. Below the peak was the lair of the demon, a deep cave that went straight to the ground. At the entrance of the cave, there were many white bones piled up, but when Baichuran arrived, he noticed that there was still fresh blood on the entrance of the cave. Found that the situation seemed strange, Baichuran's footsteps stopped, and he observed the situation for a moment. This is... After a closer inspection, Baichuran found that the trunk of this dead forest had traces of fighting left, and even some trees were chopped down and cut into two pieces. Someone has come here? Still fighting? This was also possible. Although Baichuran has been monitoring the demon with his own mind power, after discovering the demon, in order to be lazy, he took back the mind power that originally covered the entire Mang Mountain, leaving only a bit that's enough to lock on the demon. But just now, in order to hurry up, Baichuran once again took all the soul awareness back. He was afraid that in the past few days, some martial artists gathered outside the mountain, went deep into the Mang Mountain from another direction, found the location of the demon, and then in the short moment when Baichuran took back his soul awareness, they encountered and found the demon. As for the results, it's obvious. Baichuran glanced at several incomplete corpses in the dead wood forest. If they won, Baichuran wouldn't have to be here. Being! In the cave, a fierce metal impact sounded. Hearing this sound, Baichuran quickened his pace and hurried toward the cave. There are still people alive, but from the sound, it sounds like they are in danger. Baichuran was a little worried. He remembered the young man who had walked along with himself in the restaurant on the side of the road, when Tang Wei proposed that there was a demon in the Mang Mountain. Baichuran had vaguely realized his intention. This male brother seems to have a lot of hostility towards the cultivators, but also has an inexplicable sense of responsibility for the boring situation of the people of Shangshuan Kingdom. He would not ask the cultivators for help, but he would not stand to see the civilians have been suffered by demons. Then there was only one way to fight against this demon: gather martial artists to attack it in a group. Baichuran thought that he would get rid of this demon before Tang Wei started to act, but he didn't expect that the immature boy was unexpectedly appealing and actionable. Baichuran only separated from him for a few days, and this person completed the personnel convening. He collected a group of martial artists and came into the mountain to kill the demon. I hope he won't die, otherwise it would be a pity. Baichuran speeded up his pace and instantly came into the cave from outside the dead forest. There were hundreds of square meters of underground caves. Baichuran saw 2 zombie demons, whose bodies were messy and dilapidated. They were walking towards the only survivor in the cave, exactly who Baichuran thought of: Tang Wei. Tang Wei felt his hands and feet were cold as he was desperate. Originally, he came out this time to prove to his father that mortals could protect themselves without relying on cultivators, hoping that his old father, who was indulged in cultivation, could wake up. So after hearing that there was a demon in the vicinity of the Mang Mountain, he rushed all the way. After going through a lot of troubles and spending a lot of his personal belongings, Tang Wei successfully raised funds and convened a group of martial arts masters ranging from the forging stage to the qi refining stage, and organized a team to go to the mountains to fight against the demon. Of course, although Tang Wei lacked experience, he was not stupid. While raising funds, he has already collected information about the demon beforehand and compared the strengths of the 2 sides. After hearing the villagers nearby and comparing the description with the books that they have seen before, Tang Wei confirmed that the demon was a high-level qi refining stage. It's a zombie demon with strength comparable to those of the elders in the martial arts sections. It's dangerous, but as long as there were enough people, they were not incapable of dealing with it. So after pulling up men and horses, and preparing 2 things which zombie demon was most afraid of, oil and peach wood, Tang Wei led the team to climb the mountain. It took 3 days for them to find the trace of the demon, all the way to the demon's nest. Tang Wei ignited peachwood soaked with oil, and the flames successfully pushed the zombie demon out of the lair and effectively weakened it. Although this zombie demon was still extremely difficult to deal with the assistance of several masters in the qi refining stage, Tang Wei still successfully suppressed it, and gradually pushed it into a dead end. But when the demon was about to be killed, in the cave, suddenly a zombie demon with similar strength but was fully intact came out. This time Tang Wei's team fell in severe danger. Under the combined force of the 2 zombies, most of the forging stage in the team were quickly killed, and only a few in the qi refining stage survived. However, as time passed, they were killed one by one and were dragged away by the 2 zombies. Tang Wei and the last master in the qi refining stage were forced into the lair by 2 zombies. Just now, the master who has fought alongside him so far has been killed, and his heart was dug out by the demons. His own qi almost exhausted, he definitely couldn't hold until the next round. 2 zombies demolished the poor guy's body, spilled his brain on the cave wall, and then roared and ran towards Tang Wei. Tang Wei also grasped the sword tightly with his sweaty hands and raised the last bit of qi. However, at this moment of life and death, suddenly, from the side of the cave, there was a magnificent wave of scorching spirit rushed toward them. It was a slap of strength. During the attack, the crimson energy was turned into a huge palm, and with a bang sound, it pinched the 2 zombies together and patted them to the wall of the cave. It was a slap of strength. During the attack, the crimson energy was turned into a huge palm, and with a bang sound, it pinched the 2 zombies together and patted them to the wall of the cave. The mountain shook, and gravel and soil blocks continued to fall. Tang Wei saw this and quickly lifted the sword up to protect himself. After the dust settled, Tang Wei looked at the wall aside, and there was only a bottomless palm print there. The two zombies were gone, and it seemed that not even a single bone was left. "Brother Tang." A gentle voice sounded next to him. "We meet again." Tang Wei turned his head and saw Bai Qiuran standing with his hands behind the entrance, looking at him with a smile. "Bai Qiuran." Tang Wei felt relieved and asked again. "Why did you come here? Why can't I?" Bai Qiuran responded. "After hearing that a demon is harming people, as I've come here, if I will go back without doing anything, my mentor will kill me when he knows it." "You are pretty good." After hearing Bai Qiuran's words, Tang Wei's expression eased slightly. "But it's too dangerous for you to come here alone, be careful." At the moment when Tang Wei's exclaimed sound, Bai Qiuran's mind power also captured the thing that climbed from the ground and flew towards himself. He turned quickly and stretched out a hand to resist the attacking demon. Boom! When a wave of air exploded, Tang Wei looked at what was blocked by Bai Qiuran and exclaimed, "Another zombie demon, how many are there?" "There are many such things." Bai Qiuran, who was wrestling with the zombie demon, was still relaxed, but at this moment, he heard some wonderful sounds in his ears. He lowered his head and looked, then raised his head up slightly and said to Tang Wei, "Brother Tang, we may have a bit of trouble." "What?" Tang Wei looked at the zombie demon that constantly pressed Bai Qiuran, and asked nervously, "Are you unable to hold up?" "No, I'm quite capable." Bai Qiuran gave a glare to the land under his feet. "But this ground under our feet may not be able to support us, it is hollow underneath." Tang Wei looked at his feet. Sure enough, at the foot of Bai Qiuran's feet, a circle of web-like cracks appeared, and it continued to expand. "Bai Qiuran." There was cold sweat on his forehead. "How big is this hollow area?" "I don't know, but we will fall anyway." Bai Qiuran nodded. All of a sudden his feet were empty. The floor finally couldn't withstand the wrestling between him and the zombie demon, and it slumped. "See, Brother Tang, we are falling." "Don't watch, help me, ah! I ran out of qi." Tang Wei waved his arms in the air, screaming like a woman. "I'm coming." Bai Qiuran tapped on a small rock in midair, kicked the zombie demon who had entangled himself before stepping on his foot, then stepped on the collapsed floor fragments, jumped towards Tang Wei, and held his hand. But at this moment, in the darkness next to him, two zombies demon rushed over, trying to attack Tang Wei and Bai Qiuran who were in the air. Bai Qiuran snorted, holding Tang Wei by one hand, and then issued the palm move with one hand, crushing the two zombies, but because of this delay, the ground was also close. Bai Qiuran had no time to adjust his posture, just had enough time to create a ball from his qi to protect him and Tang Wei. With a slam, the two rolled on the ground. Bai Qiuran cushioned underneath and then rolled several consecutive times due to the subsequent impact. Tang Wei dizzily raised his head. "Brother Tang, are you okay?" Bai Qiuran's voice of concern sounded in his ear. Tang Wei shook his head so that he came back to his senses. "Well, I'm fine, you." When he was talking, he suddenly felt that his chest was a little warm and bowed his head, only to find that Bai Qiuran's palm was resting on his chest, supporting his body. At this moment, Tang Wei heard the sound of a string in his head completely broken, and his face blushed instantly. "Ah!" Tang Wei suddenly screamed and got up, away from Bai Qiuran, and covered his chest. He, or more exactly she, felt confused at the moment, afraid that her secret would be discovered by Bai Qiuran. As a result, she heard Bai Qiuran's calm voice. "Brother Tang, look like you are fine. Don't get me wrong, I am a normal straight man and doesn't get attracted to men at all." Ugh? Ugh? Did he not find out? Tang Wei was frozen in place, and then she heard Bai Qiuran continue to say, "But I was still worried before, Brother Tang, would you be a girl dressed as a man? After all, some of your previous actions were too sissy. But now I can rest assured that the kind of cliché doesn't end up happening to me." He turned his head, smiling brightly like summer flowers. "After all, even if using a chest wrap, how can a woman train her chest muscles so hard and sturdy? Judging from your chest muscles and ribs, compared to mine when I entered the qi refining stage the first time, Even I feel ashamed. Tang Wei gritted her teeth and squeezed her fist tightly, shaking her body. Tang Wei gritted her teeth and squeezed her fist tightly, shaking her body. Although Bai Qiuran did not discover her real identity because of this accident, how could she feel so angry in her heart? But Bai Qiuran apparently did not notice her emotions. The man stood up slowly, patted the dust on his body, and then extended his finger. A ball of light appeared at his fingertip, lighting up the surrounding darkness, and Tang Wei saw the bones piled up on the ground. Sure enough, the main body is underground. Looking at the bones on the ground, and scanning the depths of darkness with mind power, Bai Qiuran said, "Let's go, Brother Tang." Knowing that the current situation was not the time to throw tantrum, Tang Wei suppressed her anger, took a deep breath, and then asked, "Where do we go?" "Go get rid of the demon's main body." While Bai Qiuran was talking, he lighted the light ball and turned to the depths of darkness. Tang Wei hurried to catch up with him and asked, "What do you mean? Those zombies are not demons. That's not its main body, it's just one of its components," Bai Qiuran explained while walking. "You can see it in 2 more steps. This is the main body of it." Stepping on the white bones on the ground, in the swaying light, Bai Qiuran took Tang Wei and moved toward a direction. Perhaps the previous zombies were all its combat power. On the way, although the atmosphere was ghostly and terrifying, there was a persistent stench in the air. But after all, no zombie demon attacked again. After 2 minutes of walking, Bai Qiuran stopped. "See, that's it." He raised his hand and tossed the small ball of light on his fingertips into the sky. The light ball slowly rose to midair, and then released a magnificent beam of light, like a little sun, which illuminated the darkness and revealed the bottom of the cave. In the light, Tang Wei saw the whole picture of this huge cave and couldn't help taking a cold breath. The area of this cave was much larger than that of the cave that collapsed before. Tang Wei estimated that it covered an area of thousands of square meters. On the ground of this cave, all the white bones were densely packed. The number of people died here was uncountable. The area of this cave was much larger than that of the cave that collapsed before. Tang Wei estimated that it covered an area of thousands of square meters. On the ground of this cave, all the white bones were densely packed. The number of people died here was uncountable. In front of Tang Wei and Bai Qiuran, on the hill formed by a zombie, a naked, emaciated female zombie was sitting on it. Its lower body has been completely fused with these zombies. It seems to be absorbing the endless resentment ki and death ki from the zombies through this channel. After seeing Bai Qiuran and Tang Wei, the female zombie opened her mouth, and her throat also started to swell and bulge. "What the hell is this?" Tang Wei asked numbly. "A female zombie is a monster that is born after absorbing resentment ki. We generally call it a zombie mother, and it can be regarded as a high-level demon," Bai Qiuran replied. "But it is very strange. Normally, zombie mother can't be born in ordinary countries, unless there is a large-scale death. Why is there such a thing in this deserted mountain? Just think about it later." Tang Wei felt a twitch in her stomach. "It's going to attack us." After Tang Wei finished speaking, the body of the zombie mother sitting on the zombie mountain suddenly appeared a weird swelling. An obvious human-shaped seal was moving up the esophagus from its belly as if it had encountered a dangerous python. Spitting out the prey she had just swallowed, an adult-sized body covered with unknown liquid came from its mouth. The zombie rolled down the zombie mountain, suddenly struggling to stand up, turned into a zombie demon, roared and ran toward Bai Qiuran and Tang Wei. "Ah, this kind of thing." Bai Qiuran frowned in disgust. "I don't want to touch it either." But the zombie apparently wouldn't listen to his complaints. It rushed at them at a speed exceeding the limits of mortals. Bai Qiuran put out a palm, which turned into a magnificent palm force, forming a golden vigor. It slammed on the body of the zombie demon, broke it to pieces, but in this time the zombie mother spat out a new zombie demon. "Is there no end of them?" Tang Wei asked while covering his nose behind Bai Qiuran. "Generally speaking, in order to protect themselves, the zombie mother can turn all the corpses in the range into zombies, except for the one only had bones left," Bai Qiuran replied. "What then?" Tang Wei Dao. If it continues like this, is your chi enough? It doesn't matter, just kill the zombie demon and the zombie mother together. Seeing that the second zombie monster leaped again, Baichuran raised his hand again, but this time he did not push the palm but raised 2 fingers together. Thunder Seal! Click! A dragon-shaped silver thunderbolt shot out from his fingertips. With a loud rumbling noise, the zombie monsters were turned to ash without resistance. The thunderbolt continued unabated, hit the zombie mother sitting on top of the zombie mountain. The lightning power and high heat contained in the thunderbolt caused a huge explosion. The exploding cloud of fire ignited and wrapped the whole corpse mountain with the zombie mother in the flame. Tang Wei saw that the demon twisted her weird limb desperately in the flames, and made a weird cry that made people feel nauseous, before being turned into ash. Is that all right? Tang Wei asked uneasily. That's it. The zombie mother is destroyed, and no new zombie monster will be born in a short time. Baichuran nodded. But in the soil layer outside the cave, it seems that there are still 2 zombie demons buried to prepare to block the door in the opposite direction. When I go out later, I will deal with them together. Thank you very much, Baichuran. Tang Wei was relieved. If you don't come here, I'm afraid I will die here. It's okay. Baichuran smiled. Just a flip of the hand. However, do you have a high degree of cultivation? I think this zombie mother is beyond the scope of the master of martial arts, but you can actually kill it and the zombie monsters it produces. Moreover, there is no record of this demon in the books of my family. Why do you know it so well? Tang Wei asked again. Baichuran, who are you and where do you come from? What if I say I am a cultivator of the Qingning sword sect? Baichuran said with a smile. Tang Wei looked at him solemnly for a few seconds, and suddenly smiled, saying, Don't joke with me. No matter who you are still in the qi refining stage. I can see that you don't have the true essence that foundation establishment stage has. Qi refining stage is not counted as a cultivator. How could you possibly be a member of Qingning sword sect? Baichuran's face went dark, but Tang Wei, who was smirking in a special motherly posture, did not notice. After a moment he sighed. Forget it since you think so. It's not too late, I'll take you out first. I don't want to stay in this zombie hole anymore. When stepping out of the cave and seeing the sun again, Tang Wei really felt a strange feeling of being born again. When stepping out of the cave and seeing the sun again, Tang Wei really felt a strange feeling of being born again. Perhaps it was because the zombie mother in the ground has been destroyed. The dead forest in front of the cave seemed to be a little bit brighter. Although the gloom was still there, the atmosphere that made people feel disgusted and fear has disappeared. After breathing a few times of fresh air, Tang Wei remembered the business and asked Baichuran. Baichuran, where are the 2 zombie demons? It's deep in the dead forest ahead. Baichuran pointed. What? What happened? Seeing his expression changed, Tang Wei quickly asked. Someone is fighting with the 2 zombie demons. Baichuran answered with interest. It looks like a cultivator, and he is about to win. Huh! Cultivator? Tang Wei's face showed some doubts and vigilance. Where is it? Come with me. Baichuran grasped Tang Wei's arm, his feet. Moved. Tang Wei just felt a glimmer of light around her. The next moment, the 2 had reached the depths of the dead forest. This time, without Baichuran's direction, Tang Wei also heard the sound of fighting coming from the front, the roar of the zombie demons, the sound of the forest trees being knocked down, and the cry of a young man. All were mixed up. Tang Wei became curious. She hid behind the trees and looked in the direction of the sound. On that side, there was a young and handsome man who was in a robust posture, avoiding the attack of 2 corpses. He was manipulating 2 small red and black flags and muttered the chantings in his mouth. His movements were also very erratic, so that the 2 corpses could not catch him at all and could only roar angrily, destroying the surrounding trees and stones in vain. Between the dodges, the young man's spell seemed to be ready. The 2 command flags flew in the air under his command, forming a huge red rune that created a halo covered the 2 zombies. Then the 2 flags fell to the ground, turned into a red cage, imprisoned 2 zombies while the rune was releasing a huge flame, burning them. The 2 zombies continued to struggle and roar. After persisting for a few seconds, they finally slowly weakened and were burned into ashes by flames. The young man continued to maintain the flame for a few seconds until the bodies of the 2 zombies were completely reduced to ashes, and he was relieved to take back his 2 flags. After burning the 2 corpses, there seemed to be a faint stream of light flashing on the 2 flags. "It's Sima Inbo! It's Sima Inbo!" Looking at the 2 flags, Tang Wei's face was a bit ugly. "Do you recognize this person?" Bai Qiuran came to Tang Wei and crouched beside him, his arms around his legs. "He is the youngest disciple of Fu Xuanqiu, the spiritual advisor of the Shangshuan kingdom," Tang Wei said. "Damn cultivator." Bai Qiuran scratched his cheek, felt a little awkward. Between the two, the young man over there seemed to notice something and looked towards this direction. Tang Wei was startled and immediately lowered her body, hiding behind a forest tree, but Bai Qiuran squatted fearlessly, looked back with a smile. The two looked at each other for a few seconds. The young man named Sima Inbo looked away and looked at the tree in which Tang Wei was hiding. "Her Royal Highness, come out, I already see you." "Princess?" Bai Qiuran was surprised. "Who are you calling, little brother?" Sima Inbo didn't speak but stared straight at the tree which Tang Wei is hiding behind. After dozens of seconds, Tang Wei, with a somber face, walked out from behind the tree and looked at him hostilely. "What?" Bai Qiuran was frightened. "Brother Tang, are you a princess? How is it possible? Your chests are even flatter than mine." Tang Wei forced herself to turn a deaf ear to Bai Qiuran's words. She said to Sima Inbo, "Sima Inbo, what are you doing here? There are monsters in the Mang Mountain, and as the #1 guardian of Shangshuan Kingdom, I naturally want to remove the monsters to keep Shangshuan people safe." There was a little helplessness on Sima Inbo's face. "What about you? Your Royal Highness, you ran out of the palace privately and cross-dressed as a man. What if you run into any trouble? You should go back quickly. Your Majesty and His Royal Highness both worry about you very much. You cannot deal with such demons. Come on, if there are a few more, I'm afraid I will die here too. I'm free to go wherever I want, you don't have the right to interfere." Tang Wei raised an eyebrow. "But half a month later, it will be the ceremony for heaven worshipping of Shangshuan Kingdom. Your Majesty has ordered us to come to find your Royal Highness. We must take you back to the palace." Sima Inbo sighed. "Your Royal Highness, please be considerate of your father and think of us servants. Your safety is not just your business." Tang Wei paused and then said, "I know. Your Highness, I will go back, but not with you." Tang Wei raised his hand impatiently. "Please go back first and tell my father that I'm safe and will be back soon." Sima Inbo and Tang Wei looked at each other for a few seconds, then chose to retreat. "Well, your Royal Highness, as you wish. The demon has been removed, and you can protect yourself." He stepped back and arched towards Bai Qiuran. "It seems that your Highness has something to say to the chivalrous swordsman. I will not disturb the two, but... Your Highness, you should pay attention to your identity. We don't need you to remind us." Tang Wei responded coldly. Sima Inbo shook his head helplessly, and arched back to Bai Qiuran. "I'm sorry, your Highness has a bad temper, please excuse her." After speaking, he turned around and performed a flying technique, and left the place. After seeing Sima Inbo going away, Tang Wei took a somewhat awkward look and turned to look at Bai Qiuran, saying, "If you have any questions, just ask." "I don't have any questions to ask. Listening to the conversation you just made, I've guessed a lot." Bai Qiuran fumbled his chin, and couldn't help asking, "But Brother Tang, are you really a princess?" "Of course it's true." Tang Weiqiang endured the unknown fire in her heart and said, as she read in novels, when women who cross-dressed as men were recognized by their companions, they were surprised, shy, embarrassed, and ecstatic. But this was the first time Tang Wei met someone like Bai Qiuran who still doubted the truth. "Well, does it mean the master of Sima Inbo, the spiritual advisor of the Shangshuan Kingdom, is the one you said from the Qingming sword sect?" Bai Qiuran was thoughtful. But I look at his moves, instead of looking like the Qingming method, I feel a bit sinister. How do I know? Our understanding of Qingming's sword sect only originated from ancient books. Those cultivators will not communicate with us except to go down to the mountain to search for apprentices. Tang Wei said indignantly. It's okay, I'll look for the answers to these questions myself. Bai Qiuran said with a smile. My last question is, Brother Tang, what is your real name? Hearing Bai Qiuran's question, Tang Wei bit her lip, which was a subconscious gesture of her. Hearing Bai Qiuran's question, Tang Wei bit her lip, which was a subconscious gesture of her. My name is Tang Ruowei, the first princess of Shangshuan Kingdom. Tang Wei, no, Tang Ruowei replied. Ruowei, it's a good name. Bai Qiuran smiled and arched his hand. Well, what I want to say is that regardless of your gender, this Bai Qiuran will treat you as a friend. I want to make friends with you, not because of gender, identity, or ability, but because of your courage to help. If you have any difficulties, you can talk to me, I will do my best to help. After a pause, he added. Like now. No, I'm fine. Tang Ruowei hesitated a moment, or said. You have saved my life, and I am not qualified to ask you more. Besides, I just go back to my country to participate in the ceremony. I am also a princess, and the evil people dare not to do any bad thing to me. At least for now. Really? That's good. Seeing that Tang Ruowei did not take the initiative to ask, Bai Qiuran did not mention the matter again. Instead, he said, Brother Tang. No, Miss Tang, are you going to go back to the capital? Well, first I'll go to inform the civilians near the Mang Mountain, and after all this was done, I'll return to the capital. Tang Ruowei glanced at Bai Qiuran. How about you? You have found all the herbs. Are you going back? No, I just found the most important medicine. My last day is approaching. I need to find another medicine to extend my lifespan. Bai Qiuran smiled and shook his head. Next, I'm also going to go to the capital of Shangshuan Kingdom. There are a few materials that can be bought there, and I'm also very interested in the spiritual advisor from Qingming's sword sect. Then, let me invite you this time. Tang Ruowei smiled. Do you want to travel together? Of course. Bai Qiuran answered happily. I'm bored with traveling alone. After finding a few herbs he needed and accompanying Tang Ruowei, who was still dressed as a man, Bai Qiuran took some time to spread the news of the demon's death around the Mang Mountain. After finding a few herbs he needed and accompanying Tang Ruowei, who was still dressed as a man, Bai Qiuran took some time to spread the news of the demon's death around the Mang Mountain. Bai Qiuran incidentally inquired in the process. Sure enough, while he was monitoring the demon, some people were still killed near the Mang Mountain. A lot of blood was taken away from the deceased, and the entire body was dried up. But after he and Tang Ruowei cleaned up the corpse demon, this kind of thing didn't happen again. Bai Qiuran did not tell Tang Ruowei about these things but prepared to start his own investigation secretly. He had a hunch that this matter should be inextricably linked to Shangshuan royal family. So after dealing with these matters, Bai Qiuran and Tang Ruowei embarked on the journey to return to the capital of the Shangshuan kingdom. Regarding Tang Ruowei's fact that she was a girl, Bai Qiuran didn't care much about it, because he had no disagreement with Tang Ruowei. Although as a man who spent 3,000 years to break into foundation establishment stage, he also yearned for the kind of love formed between man and woman, Bai Qiuran's orientation towards women was still limited. Popularly speaking, he likes women with big breasts and big buttocks. Bai Qiuran hasn't shown any interest in a girl whose chests were even flatter than him. So in order to avoid suspicion, he was also very cautious along the way, perfectly guaranteeing the gentleman's style, and did not have any further touching with Tang Ruowei. A week later, the two successfully arrived in the capital of the Shangshuan Kingdom, one of the largest cities in the country. In front of the city gate, Bai Qiuran and Tang Ruowei, who still kept male's appearance, parted ways. Goodbye, Bai Qiuran. She smiled and said, Although I felt impatient when you invited me to drink, you were right, making friends is a very happy thing. I am very happy to have you as a friend on this trip. Goodbye, Miss Tang. Bai Qiuran also said goodbye to her. Take care of yourself, we'll see again. Goodbye. The two bid farewell to each other lightly, and then Bai Qiuran watched Tang Ruowei come to the soldiers, presented a token to them, and then left here under the guard of a group of soldiers. The gentleman's friendship was as thin as water, and the friendship between the cultivators was even more so. Lifespan, cultivation stage, and various frustrations and difficulties on the road to cultivation make the lives of cultivators usually full of variables. In their life, cultivators would encounter countless departure for various reasons. A cultivator must learn to be good at picking up, and even better at letting go. 3,000 years and several trips, Bai Qiuran has long been accustomed to this parting. Regardless of strength, identity, and longevity, he made a friend with Tang Ruowei in his mood, naturally also treat Tang Ruowei as his friend. In the limited time that Tang Ruowei was alive, Bai Qiuran would treat Tang Ruowei like a friend. When Tang Ruowei left the world, maybe hundreds of years later, if Bai Qiuran was still alive, then when he was in a mood, he would bring a pot of fine wine, went to the old friend's grave to pay respect. This was his way of life now. Farewell to Tang Ruowei, an interesting little girl. Bai Qiuran also began to deal with his own business. As he said before, in addition to Foundation Build Pill, he must also refine some longevity pills to extend his life. At the same time, Foundation Build Pill actually still lacked a few flavors of adjuvant, and he also planned to buy them in the capital of the Shangshuan Kingdom. In this capital, there was actually a small market that is specially provided for the cultivators to trade. Although there were no high-end cultivators and the transaction materials were not precious, these simple ones were exactly what Bai Qiuran needed. And occasionally, some high-end cultivators would appear on the market, using precious materials to exchange special items. For example, as Bai Qiuran knew, Zhu Yunzi and the elders often sneak here and use the treasures they found when traveling around, to exchange for something that was especially precious to them, and satisfy their quirks. Sometimes, Bai Qiuran also had to admit that Tang Ruowei's words make sense. There were many more than meet the eye guys among cultivators, especially the advanced ones. Relying on the memories of hundreds of years ago, Bai Qiuran successfully found the entrance to the market. Making a basic spell of disillusion, he passed through the wall of a dead alley in the capital of the Shangshuan Kingdom and entered a hidden space. As the walls dissipated like clouds, a wide street appeared in front of Bai Qiuran. On both sides of the street, there were stalls set up by many cultivators, on which they presented the treasures from all over the world, materials, pills, or even flying sword. Among the buildings on both sides of the street are the shops opened by some small and medium-sized sect, specially targeted at those who were at the foundation establishment stage. Ignoring the warm greetings on both sides of the street, Bai Qiuran passed the street and went straight to a drug store opened by a small pill refining sect. He gave the prepared list to the very enthusiastic store manager who was at the peak of the foundation establishment stage, but the other party took a look and shook his head. What? Out of stock? Bai Qiuran asked suddenly. I just want some common but not very useful materials. Sorry, someone has recently bought a large number of them, and we are out of stock. The boss replied with an apology. Bai Qiuran thought about it, took back the list and marked some materials, then handed it to the shop owner. Boss, look, are these materials out of stock? The shop owner took a look and then nodded. It's true. This batch was sold out with the batch you want. Why do you know that I'm out of stock here? Oh, most of those who bought are my colleagues. Bai Qiuran put away the list, apologized, and went straight out of the drug store. Out of this drug store, Bai Qiuran looked up at the tomorrow in the sky and muttered to himself. Out of this drug store, Bai Qiuran looked up at the tomorrow in the sky and muttered to himself. Interesting, really interesting. The materials he marked were things that normally couldn't be out of stock, because those materials were most used by the demonic cultivators as the raw materials for the elixir of ascension. Of course, Bai Qiuran knew how special his situation was. For 3,000 years, he has tried various methods to build the foundation, whether it was the incomplete recipe left by immortals, or the remnants of the cults before the Detsung calendar, or the ancient relics found in the sites of sects that disappeared in history. Even recipes of evil sects, who was the nemesis of the Righteous Alliance, he also studied. Unlike the cultivators of righteous path, who were striving to build the foundation step by step, the cultivators of demonic path were more advocating freedom and advancing. Their philosophy was, everything in the world is for my own use. Therefore, their skills in all aspects were more radical, and it's naturally the same in pill refining. The materials often used by these demonic cultivators were very strong after refining, but they also had very strong side effects. In addition to Baichoran this freak, even the most reckless demonic cultivator was unable to withstand the torture of these pills. So at this time, they would use the special ways they practiced to help them digest the medicine power. Let's use the 4 major evil sects as an example. When they couldn't bear the medicine power, the Kamasutra sect would have sex, the Nether Ghost sect would go to mass graves or battlefields to absorb the residual souls, and the Heavenly Demon sect would take spiritual power of a spiritual land. The most extreme one, Blood God sect, would choose to perform a ritual called blood sacrifice. This ritual required, in the least, the population of a village to be completed. Therefore, among the evil sects, Blood God sect was the most unscrupulous one. Depend on their behavior, maybe a demonic cultivator would not be attacked by the righteous path, but every one of the Blood God sect has the blood of at least thousands of innocent lives on their hands. Therefore, the major sects of the Righteousness Alliance have given an order, once encountering a member of the Blood God sect, kill without asking. However, considering that normal cultivators could also use these materials, Baichoran did a second test. In addition to those materials, he wrote the material of a pill recipe which was the most commonly used by the magicians. And these materials were also out of stock in the store. This was very strange. It seems that in Shangshuan Kingdom, there were indeed demonic cultivators. Considering Tang Ruowei's attitude towards the cultivators, and the rumors he heard from various places about how the emperor of Shangshuan Kingdom was now superstitious about becoming immortal, all the clues were pointed towards the spiritual advisor of Shangshuan dynasty. In particular, that guy made corrupt use of the name of his Qingming sword sect. Thinking all the way, Baichoran came to an upscale restaurant in the Shangshuan Kingdom. After throwing dozens of silver, he found a table in the top floor, and then used his superhuman hearing to capture the talking of the guests in this restaurant, while opening up his magnificent soul awareness to skim through the entire capital. Thinking all the way, Baichoran came to an upscale restaurant in the Shangshuan Kingdom. After throwing dozens of silver, he found a table in the top floor, and then used his superhuman hearing to capture the talking of the guests in this restaurant, while opening up his magnificent soul awareness to skim through the entire capital. But after some searching, Baichoran didn't find anything weird in the city. He also focused on observing the palace of the Shangshuan Kingdom. However, whether it was the emperor of Shangshuan Kingdom, the prince, the spiritual advisor or his first disciple Sima Inbo, they did not show any abnormalities. The spiritual advisor and Sima Inbo did not have the magic chi that would appear on the body of the monk, they should be normal cultivators. In the process, Baichoran also saw Tang Ruowei returning to the palace. She should be in her palace in the harem of the palace. When Baichoran saw her, the princess who had a lot of prejudices about the practitioner had changed to a woman's dress, which looked pretty and beautiful, but Baichoran saw that she was working hard in front of a tall mirror. She was stuffing something in her bra and bulged it. That reminded Baichoran of his former self. Before he met the Qingming Taoist, he wandered around those battlefields to pick up the clothes and weapons of the dead to sell for money. Occasionally when he was lucky, he was able to pull out the uneaten dry food on the soldiers' bodies. At this time, he would also stuff these foods into his clothes and bulge. But why Tang Ruowei do that? Could it be that Shangshuan royal family is actually poor? It didn't look like that. He laughed at his own wild guessing. Baichoran retracted his soul awareness and didn't pay attention to the palace again. From the current point of view, there should be no clues to the royal palace, and I must find another breakthrough point. Just then, Baichoran's ears caught the conversation of the people downstairs. Hey, this celestial ceremony is really troublesome. The previous ones were not all internal affairs of the royal family. Why did we suddenly ask us to encourage all boys and girls to go and participate in the ceremony? Huh! capturing the two sensitive words, boys and girls, and celestial ceremony. Baichuran quickly released soul awareness and focused on the place where the sound came. The ones who were talking were two middle-aged men downstairs. Looking at the clothes, they should be two middle-ranking officials from the Shangshuan kingdom. Well, what His Majesty and the Master think, how do we courtiers know? One of the middle-aged men said. Maybe they want to borrow the luck of boys and girls. It is estimated that these little children will be allowed to stand and warm up. The situation in the country is really not very optimistic recently. The key is the current situation. Not to mention elsewhere, the residents in the city are not very willing to lend their children and let them follow the ceremony. Another official complained. If you want to find a family that is willing to lend their child, you still have to go to a remote place. Look for those families who have a hard time, give them some money, and say a lot of words. But that's too frustrating. Alas, is there any orphaned kid who is wandering in the streets? No matter boy or girl, that's fine. Lowering your voice. The middle-aged official who spoke first promptly reminded. Here is the capital of the kingdom of Shangshuan. If you want all orphans in the capital, wouldn't you want to smear the face of the holy? Careful with your words, or you'll lose your head. Sorry, my mouth slipped. Another official hurriedly picked up the glass. Come here and drink. As the two drinking cups after cups, they began to talk about other things, so Baichuran retracted his soul awareness and touched his chin. After a moment, he smiled slightly, wiped out the dishes and wine on the table, leaving money, left the restaurant, and walked to a nearby desolate corner. After scanning and confirming that no one was around, Baichuran's body suddenly made a sound like a burst of beans. Then, his body shrank, his face gradually changed, and his hair changes from white to black. Finally, in the place of Baichuran, stood a dark-haired boy with a young and lovely face. Fully drunk, the two middle-aged officials left the restaurant together. Fully drunk, the two middle-aged officials left the restaurant together. Hey, do you want to go to Drunk Immortal Building? An official greeted. In the next few days, we will probably have to go outside the capital. We must take this opportunity to have a good time. But my wife. The other official looked a little scared. And you're not going home, is your wife okay with this? Don't worry, that old hag probably has gone sleep with the child early. The official who proposed to go to Hualu Liuxiang waved indifferently. When I left home this morning, I told her we are doing business, do you understand? Another official officer seemed to want to go, and he suddenly said to him. Then, when my wife asks me, you have to help me. Haha, of course. The officer who made the proposal laughed, and patted his colleague on the back. Tonight we're going to drink as much as we like. There was a smile on both faces that both men understood. While they walked toward the largest brothel in Shangshuan's capital, an official's robe was pulled back. Who? They were drunk and a little angry, turning their heads in doubt, but they saw a little boy with dark-eyed eyes, holding a broken bowl in one hand, and the other holding the corners of their clothes together, raising their heads timidly. Watching them. Two uncles. The little boy begged in a somewhat ambiguous language. Please give me some food. I'm starving. The official who was caught by the corner of the clothes had been drinking a little bit, and for a while, his brain didn't turn around. When he saw a beggar kid pulling himself and not letting him go to the street, he was furious, and suddenly pulled back his clothes, pushing the little boy to the ground, roaring. Go away! Where's the little bastard coming from? It's so obscure! But another officer seemed to be able to maintain a certain degree of sobriety. He stared at the little boy sitting on the ground with drowsiness in his eyes, and suddenly reached out and held his colleague. Wait a minute, don't leave. Look at this little boy, isn't it the kind old child like you said, orphaned kid who was wandering in the streets? Huh! Listening to his colleague's words, the official who was angry was also paused. He took a sip of wine, blushed, and stared at the little boy danglingly. I don't know. At this look, although this little boy is wearing tattered and patched clothing, his face and hands and feet are all dirty and dusty, but looking at his face and features, he is a very cute boy. If we let him wash and eat 2 good meals to supplement the nutrition, I'm sure that there are many noble officials who are willing to adopt him as an adopted child or even a plaything. Endured dizziness and headache, the official shook his head, sobered his head a little, and then looked at his colleagues. Then he squatted down, struggling to reveal a kind smile, while reaching out to the boy on the ground. I'm sorry, little boy, this uncle didn't see it at first. You're clearly a poor child. Sorry. Well, the little boy stepped on his legs, stepped back timidly on the ground, and looked at them with horrified eyes. Secretly cursed in his heart, the official continued to smile, and his face was about to grin. Come with us. We are the officials of the Shangshuan Kingdom. His Majesty has ordered, in this capital, people must have food and clothes. We will not leave you on the street. He smiled and reached out to pull the little boy. Let's go, this uncle takes you to the public house, you can eat hot food. Is there something to eat? The little boy asked timidly. Of course, you're guaranteed to be full. The official smiled and said, And warm clothes, soft beds, these are all for you. Is that so? I'll go with you, uncles. As soon as the little boy heard that he would have food to eat and clothes to wear, his eyes flashed, and he reached out and grabbed the big hand full of calluses. The official stood up with a smile, glared at his colleagues, and they both smiled at the same time. Brother, let's take him back to the enshrinement and show them to the enshriners. Right. Another official almost nodded. After sending him, we will be happy again. The two of them smiled and stretched out one hand, took the little boy's arms, and walked towards the direction of Xianghui Temple. But what they didn't know was that behind them, the little boy also revealed an all according to the plan. Smile. This little boy naturally was Bai Qiuran. During his 3,000 years of cultivation, he has read various techniques, some of which were not limited by cultivating stage, and he trained them to the point of being supernatural. This was one of them. Using this technique, he was able to change his body at will. This time, in order to see what kind of plan behind this, he transformed into a child. Usually, young boys and girls were the favorite victims of the demonic cultivators. They could provide pure energy, whether it's sex or soul-sucking, of course, including large-scale blood sacrifices. After following the two official missions to the enshrinement house, Bai Qiuran was taken by two maids to a bathhouse next to him, helped him clean the stains on his body, changed him into a new suit, and then he was taken into a small room. After a while, someone brought a table of meals and at the same time ordered Bai Qiuran to stay in place and not run around. After seeing the people leaving, Bai Qiuran settled these meals, and at the same time, he released his soul awareness. He searched in the enshrinement house, and soon found the two officials who were talking with a man, whom Bai Qiuran also recognized. It just happened to be the number 1 guardian of Shangshuan Kingdom, Sima Inbo, whom he had met at Mang Mountain. After finding them, Bai Qiuran immediately began to monitor their conversation. It's done well this time. Bai Qiuran heard that Sima Inbo was complimenting the two officials. Although it's just a ceremony, this boy's bone roots are extraordinary, in all aspects are the best choice. If he appears in the festival ceremony, presumably the spirit of all previous emperors will also be relieved, and change the misfortune of the country. I will report to my master that you two have worked hard. Thank you, Guardian Sima. The two officers bowed. After the two officials went away, Sima Inbo stood alone and thought for a while, then went back to his desk and started to deal with the files on the table. Bai Qiuran followed him with soul awareness, monitoring his every move. It's strange. Bai Qiuran took back his soul awareness and was surprised. Disguised as a child, it has been 3 days since he came to the shrine, and over the past 3 days, he has been monitoring the actions of key figures such as Sima Ingbue, Emperor Shangshuan, Prince, and the spiritual advisor Fu Qianqiu with his soul awareness. No abnormalities were found. The Shangshuan Emperor went to the court and handled the memorials on time as usual. At night, he would randomly choose several women in the harem to sleep with. As an emperor, he was not superb, but still pretty good. The crown prince was still very young and was currently studying for various knowledge and martial arts under the arrangement of the emperor. Depending on his performance, he was just a relatively intelligent child. And Sima Inbo and Fu Qianqiu have acted regular cultivators for the past 3 days. Bai Qiuran has observed their practice. Sima Inbo has cultivated a basic fire attribute cultivation method. As for Fu Qianqiu, his cultivation method did take on a little bit of Qingning sword sex breathing technique. From Bai Qiulan's perspective, it can basically be determined that these two people have indeed not learned any demonic cultivation methods. After all, he has encountered all major evil sects before. Among them, the previous great elder of Heavenly Demon sect dared to use him as a bad example and mocked the slow progress of Taoism's disciples, saying they had no future, so he went to the door and beat him mercilessly. The previous leader of Blood God sect was also killed for the same reason. Bai Qiuran could see their demonic cultivation methods at the first glance, not to mention a foundation establishment stage and a 9th layer qi refining stage. In short, after observing these days, the most suspicious one was Tang Ruowei. How successful her puberty was, Bai Qiuran has measured it himself, but in his occasional observation, when this girl went out, she was standing with a pair of large breasts. Moreover, Bai Qiuran once, with his sole awareness, saw the princess sneaking into her own palace. Behind her mirror in that palace, there was even a special secret room. Whenever she came out, her boobs would become bulging and round, and Bai Qiuran was quite sure that Tang Ruowei couldn't change the physical state at will like him. So he doubted that this was a new, special demonic technique. If it wasn't for the character of Tang Ruowei, plus she really only had a strong and stubborn spirit, Bai Qiuran would doubt whether the princess was behind the scenes. Could it be a misunderstanding? Shangshuang Kingdom's situation became difficult because of the bad political movements. The spiritual advisor just had some relationship with a disciple of Qingning Sword sect. Tang Ruowei's hostility towards the cultivator was only from her subjective impression. A lot of materials missing from the practice market were just bought by a demonic cultivator who happened to pass by. As the saying goes, the world is large, everything is possible. It's a fucking lie. Bai Qiuran did not believe that all of this was due to coincidence. If one believed in accidents, coincidences, and destiny, Bai Qiuran should have exhausted his life for 3,000 years ago, and go into reincarnation wheel. The more these people did not show their tails, the more doubt Bai Bairan has about them. I am Bai Qiuran. I have to find out the truth. Since this road is not working, I will change into another. Thinking of this, Bai Qiuran reached out his hand and did a mysterious hand seal. The body's true qi turned into infinite spiritual power, and after a while, Bai Qiuran took a step forward, left a clone that looked exactly like him. He looked at the clone that he had left behind, which maintained the attitude of a young child, and returned to the small bed in the room to sit properly. Bai Qiulan's body became higher and higher, until he was restored to normal, then stepped out and disappeared. At the same time, in the back garden of Shangshuan Kingdom Palace, Tang Ruowei, wearing a luxurious dress, carried her skirt and found her father who was drinking tea and enjoying flowers. At the same time, in the back garden of Shangshuan Kingdom Palace, Tang Ruowei, wearing a luxurious dress, carried her skirt and found her father who was drinking tea and enjoying flowers. Father Emperor. Tang Ruowei's face was eager. I just heard that you temporarily changed the rules and suddenly take 200 boys and girls to participate in the ceremony. Why? Ruowei, you are already a big girl, why are you still so brazen? Shangshuan Emperor put down the tea bowl, sighed, and pointed to the seat next to him. Sit down first. How can I rest assured in the future knowing you are like this? Don't mention the future, you always tell me that the ancestors' law cannot be changed lightly. Why now you've hastily changed the law of the ceremony for heaven worshipping? Tang Ruowei sat down next to his father, and asked indifferently. This is an adjustment that I made after consulting with the spiritual advisor. Shangshuan Emperor replied. Recently the Shangshuan Kingdom has suffered many natural disasters and demons. The spiritual advisor said that the national luck is frustrated and I need to use this method to sacrifice and change the national luck. That spiritual advisor again? Tang Ruowei bitterly advised. Instead of blaming the national luck for these things, why don't you try to make good efforts and make this country better by your own governance? Rule Wei! Shangxuan Emperor replied somewhat angrily. Watch your tone, I don't want to talk to you now. Tang Ruowei flushed her face with anger, and was silent for a long time before she squeezed out a word. Yes. You ran out of the house some time ago. I haven't settled with you yet. The Emperor of Shangxuan Kingdom saw his daughter act honestly and continued. I happened to arrange it for you today, lest you run out in the wild. He exclaimed. Come, go and invite Sima Inbo. After hearing his words, Tang Ruowei's heart suddenly felt a bad feeling. Before long, Sima Inbo followed the attendants to the palace's back garden. Long live your majesty, long live your highness. Because he was a disciple of the spiritual advisor, also the #1 guardian, Sima Inbo's status in the Shangxuan kingdom was special, so he did not need to pay as much respect to Tang Ruowei and Shangxuan Emperor as others. He simply bowed his hands and did not kneel. Sima Inbo, you can sit. Shangxuan Emperor smiled, and the next sentence really sold his daughter. To come to you today, there is one thing to discuss with you. You see, you are now unmarried and still single, just as Ruowei's age has arrived. It would be better for you to marry her and make you the national groom? Father Emperor! Tang Ruowei shouted but was stopped by the Shangxuan Emperor. Father, why did you push me to Sima Inbo? Tang Ruowei hurried to his father and asked in a low voice. I don't like him at all. Ruowei. Shangxuan Emperor also whispered. Guardian Sima is handsome and talented. Not only he is a cultivator, but he is also a good man, and more importantly, I have checked his ethnicity, and his mother is very plump. Looking at his daughter who looked like dirt, Shangxian Emperor quietly said, Ruowei, our Shangxuan royal family has always tried to change the fact that the royal women's breasts are small. In our kingdom, women with the curvy body are always much adored, so this is not only a shame for you but also a disgrace to the royal family. I know your dream, but it is an impossible dream. But if you marry Sima Inbo, the children between you inherited his genes, maybe you can keep your children and offspring from following in your footsteps. What a damn reason! Tang Ruowei said with a dark face. The dream was come true by my children, is it still my dream? Besides, how many generations has this been? And I haven't seen the good gene that I inherited from my mother. But Shangxuan Emperor ignored her, looked at Sima Inbo, who was standing aside. Sima Inbo, would you like to marry Ruowei? Shangxuan Emperor asked again. Sima Inbo glanced at Tang Ruowei, glanced very vaguely from the latter's big chest, then lowered his head and said, I'm willing. Well? Shangxuan Emperor laughed with a smile of success. But since it's already settled, you can't regret it at that time. Even if you are an apprentice of the master, if you are wronged by Ruowei at that time, I will also ask you for the crime with the master. A king tells no joke, this is natural. Sima Inbo bowed his head. Shangxuan Emperor laughed, and was very happy. Sima Inbo laughed, and was very happy too, while Tang Ruowei's face was as dark as the bottom of the pot. It seems that everything was well prepared. Before returning, Shangxuan Emperor arranged her Tang Ruowei. The Shangxuan Emperor was so anxious to sell her. One reason was that he was afraid she would continue to be wild, and the other naturally knew what Tang Ruowei was hiding. Her chest was padded, because she happened to be born in the Shangxuan kingdom, where plump was equal beauty. Tang Ruowei's situation may be difficult to find a satisfactory husband's family in the future, but Shangxuan Emperor did not want to marry her to a foreign country. If he knew what Tang Ruowei really looked like, maybe Sima Inbo would not smile so happily. Tang Ruowei had to marry a disciple of her most disgusted cultivator, so she was naturally reluctant. Rather than marry Sima Inbo, a good-looking fellow, she preferred marry a normal man. After all, it was her father who made the marriage contract. Tang Ruowei didn't dare to object directly. However, since the situation has developed to the present, she was also ready in her heart. After the ceremony of sacrifice was over, she was going to sneak out of the palace, leave the territory of the Shangxuan kingdom, and went away. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.